For me, I'm going to say for now, this is an overreaction.
Buried him in the turf with his chin strap around his nostrils. He calls a timeout. Good wherewithal by Eli.
Great wherewithal.
Put this to music. I don't think he stepped out either. That may be the greatest catch I've ever
seen. Welcome into another edition of the Giant Overreaction. We got a lot to discuss today. We've been hearing it all over social media, all over the national television. We've been hearing that the New York Giants were supposed to be a team that could come into the 2025 season and have a little bit of success. I think a couple of things slipped through the cracks here, and now you're hearing nothing but crickets from the national media, no coverage on the New York Giants, and all you really seeing is a bunch of fans just going back and forth, fighting each other. Like yesterday, we definitely went from 180-degree spin here, from going to the highest of highs to the lowest of lows as far as the way that the perception of the fan base is regarding this New York Giants team. Today, I want to talk about the hot topic that has been going around, which is the New York Giants ought to start Jaxson Dart. We're going to talk about that today. I got a few other short little nuanced topics I want to talk about as far as how the New York Giants offense can operate in this next game against the Dallas Cowboys, but we're not going to quite let the cat out the bag. Make sure you guys pull up tomorrow. Tune into the preview show that me and the Beard are going to be doing on the entire NFC East. That is when we'll do our deep dive on the New York Giants game coming up against the Dallas Cowboys. You got the Washington Commanders taking on the Green Bay Packers on Thursday night. It's definitely going to be an exciting week, and the New York Giants are in a bit of a must-win situation early into the year. We're headed into week 2 here, and the Dallas Cowboys are kind of in that same exact spot here. Both teams coming off of a divisional loss in week 1 and cannot surrender themselves to being 0-2 in the division. I'm trying my best here after that week 1 debacle from the New York Giants to kind of restore my pride as a New York Giants fan. And y'all see today I had to go back to the closet and get some old school gear, bringing out that Harry Carson vibe to maybe try to translate maybe some of the 80s energy into this 2025 season for the New York Giants. They're coming off of a 21-6 loss to the Washington Commanders this past Sunday. 6 points on the day for the New York Giants offense, and 6 points was the lowest of any NFL team in the opening week for the NFL community here. The Giants have not scored a touchdown in 3 straight season openers. Those are all underneath Brian Daboll. We're not talking about first quarter, first half. We're talking about through the entire game that the New York Giants have not scored a touchdown in 3 straight openers. If you look at the first half, it's 4 straight season openers that the New York Giants have not scored a touchdown in the first half in. And that is just unacceptable from a coach like Brian Daboll, who is really known for his offensive power that he has brought to the Buffalo Bills. And that was the reason why the New York Giants hired a guy like Brian Daboll, hoping that we could take some of that energy from the Buffalo Bills organization and bring it over here to New York. Not too far, I might add. We're talking 8 straight divisional losses for the New York Giants. We are absolutely in a bad place right now. And, I know that after these games, fans want to find out, where do we point the finger? We talked about it on the Giant Overreaction on Monday. Where do we point the finger? And for me, you can point the finger at anything that is representing blue here. You could point the finger at me. You could point the finger at the fan base. You could point the finger at the quarterback play, the defense, the offense, the offensive line, all of it. But most of the fan base has been looking at the New York Giants offensive line and the New York Giants quarterback play, particularly Russell Wilson, who tweeted out just, I want to say yesterday, something about having mental toughness. And I think that is because of the way that he has been being dragged across social media after his lackluster performance that we saw in week 1 against the Washington Commanders. And for those of y'all that didn't get a chance to see the numbers from Russell Wilson, they were absolutely pathetic. This is what they looked like. 17 of 37. We're talking under 50% completion percentage, just 168 yards through the air, no touchdowns, no interceptions is probably the best thing that Russell Wilson can hang his hat on. A QBR of 25.6. His time to throw on the day was 2.72 seconds, which should be enough to get it done. But I do think that there was a drastic dynamic range from snap to snap. There were some times where Russell Wilson did have time in the pocket and was not able to capitalize on that. But there were also some times where Russell Wilson literally, as he would say, hike, had a defender in his lap. And when we talk about quick pressures, Russell Wilson was in the top 10 of all quarterbacks in the NFL over this past weekend as far as receiving the most quick pressures. He only was sacked 2 times on the day, 44 rushing yards, trying to find a way to try to get some yards out there without having the time. But all in all, it was a very forgettable performance from Russell Wilson. And you're starting to see a lot of the national media guys that are former football players are coming out and they are expressing their feelings and their support about Jaxson Dart. But this is the thing. We all know what we were to expect with Russell Wilson at the quarterback position. And when you go out there in week 1 against the Commanders and you have no support from the offensive line, no support from your running game or your running backs, no support from your weapons not named Malik Neighbors. You could say Wan'Dale Robinson had a pretty decent day, but really no support for Russell Wilson from the weapons. Most importantly, no support from the coaching staff, no takeaways from the defense. I think that we all knew what to expect from Russell Wilson, and it wasn't what we saw in week 1. But how many of you thought that Russell Wilson was going to thrive underneath these type of circumstances that we saw on Sunday against the Washington Commanders? I know I didn't expect it. We all knew that Russell Wilson needed a running game, and I think that is the one thing that could be the saving grace for Russell Wilson here in blue with the New York Giants is if we go out there in week 2 against the Dallas Cowboys and we can establish a run, as we always talk about over here on Authentic in the Beard, RTDB, run the damn ball. That will be the saving grace for this New York Giants offense that is returning 10 of the 11 starters from last season. So the expectation that this offense was going to be able to move by simply just removing Daniel Jones and implementing Russell Wilson, I think that was an egregious mistake from the fans that thought that that was the case. Now, you are hearing through national media, a lot of people are talking about start Jaxson Dart, and we're not talking about when Jaxson Dart will start. We're talking about starting Jaxson Dart in week 2 against the Dallas Cowboys. It has already, been confirmed that Russell Wilson is going to be the starter. But I wanted to bring a couple of clips to you guys' attentions that came out. Some of these clips came out before the week 1 matchup, and a lot of these clips came out after the week 1 matchup. But I want to just show you the different type of coaches, former players, former personnel that are out there saying that the New York Giants absolutely need to go out there and start Jaxson Dart. We'll start with one of my favorites, which is Brian Baldinger. And he was on with Sal Licata on WFAN speaking about the New York Giants situation at the quarterback position. And this is what he had to say.
Where are you at with when the Giants might turn the reins over to Jaxson Dart?
I wouldn't wait anymore. I just wouldn't waste anymore. Like the guy's talented. He's played in the SEC for 3 years. He's been in 2 major college football programs. Like these kids are ready to play. They're just more advanced than they have been in the past. To me, I would take the reins off. Troy Aikman was 1-15 his rookie year. He went to the Hall of Fame. Like I can give you, for every guy you tell me that got ruined because he played too soon, I'll give you another guy that flourished because he did play. What if he's ready? That's the conundrum for everybody in that organization who's just like literally, I mean, they're like the Walking Dead over there right now, I'm sure. We're getting to that point right now where you go, screw it. Let's put him out there. Let's play him because I think he's going to be a difference maker.
That's Brian Baldinger, a guy that really supports the New York Giants in a major way. Love Baldy's breakdowns that he does up front in the trenches. He's a guy that came into the season with a lot of hype that is now saying we need to pivot, move to Jaxson Dart. He also slipped in that these guys look like dead men walking right now. If this continues to go on the way that it has gone on in week 1 and in the past 3 years, then you can expect that Brian Daboll is going to immediately be thrown right back on the hot seat. And these guys are all emphasizing that it's time to go out there and put Jaxson Dart in the lineup. Now, my pushback to that would be this. We talked about it on the Giant Overreaction on Monday. if Brian Daboll wants to save his job and you put Jaxson Dart out there, let's say in week 3, because it's already been confirmed that Russell Wilson is the quarterback going into Dallas. So let's say week 3, you're looking at Jaxson Dart having the opportunity of playing 15 games. That is a large sample size to be able to come to an evaluation on if Jaxson Dart is truly working with Brian Daboll. And in my opinion, that gives Brian Daboll a more likely chance of being
when the Giants
fired.
might turn the reins over to Jack.
Let me mute that there. And I think that that's just going to give Brian Daboll a less likely chance to keep his job. Now, as a fan, I want to see Jaxson Dart. As a head coach in Brian Daboll, if he wants to preserve his job, which is a completely different circumstance, I think that he should utilize these 2 lifelines and extend the life of the lifelines by playing Russell Wilson more. But me as a fan, y'all know I came into the season. A lot of people were giving me pushback about this as well. We knew that Russell Wilson was going to be the starter, but I kept continuously saying that even though Russell Wilson is ready to lead and ready to be the starter for the New York Giants, that does not mean that Jaxson Dart is not ready to be the starter as well. We saw it in the preseason. I think there's enough evidence out there that says that Jaxson Dart could go out there and at least be a serviceable quarterback while he is developing and learning on the job. This is what Cam Newton had to say on it when he was, I believe he was on First Take. I can't remember what show he was on, but this is what Cam Newton had to say about Russell Wilson, and this came out before the Week 1 matchup against the Washington Commanders. Here's Cam Newton.
Man, listen, with those clips, and I know it's granted it's preseason, the thing that the New York Giants need from their quarterback is for that particular individual to be mobile. And when I mean mobile, a 2-yard scamper is better than a 3-yard sack or a throwaway, right? We've seen Jaxson Dart in these highlights alone show the capabilities that he's willing to run when the pocket gets murky. Russell Wilson is not doing that. Russell Wilson is a quarterback that has elusive capabilities in his repertoire. But when he's elusive, he's looking to extend the play, and he doesn't have that same badge that he once did, right? He's lost a step. But at the same time, when I'm looking at Jaxson Dart is saying, hey, man, listen, if I'm going to take 5 yards, cool. Now, what we have to also, kind of insert him with the know-how of like, bro, this is not Ole Miss no more, doggy. You need to run to get down. Don't run to try to use somebody as an example, because you will become that example. Other than that, I feel extremely confident with Coach Daboll inserting Jaxson Dart in this type of circumstance, because if everything's the same, if everything is even, I'm going with the person that we have more invested in.
Great point by Cam Newton there, right? Because you did trade up to go out there and get Jaxson Dart. You have a lot invested in him. Russell Wilson is just on a simple 1-year deal right now. And I'm not saying that that's reason to be able to have Russell Wilson's leash be just 1 game, but I think these are great points about if you have a quarterback that is under duress, which we know in the New York Giants situation that the quarterback is going to be under duress, maybe it makes more sense to put the quarterback out there who's more mobile, more youthful, a guy that can go out there and use his legs and create plays with his legs, have design quarterback runs built around him. And more importantly, what we saw in the preseason, the hurry-up offense that we saw around Jaxson Dart that I think could be a big benefit to the New York Giants offense. So that's Cam Newton. You got a former MVP quarterback, a guy who played this game at a high level. No matter what you think about Cam Newton and his silly hats that he wears on his shows, Cam Newton knew how to play that quarterback position, and he was a guy that did it from a dual-threat perspective. So I think that he understands what a guy like Jaxson Dart can bring to the table. Now, I've been shooting games for the University of Maryland for the last 2 seasons. And I actually got to see Chris Carter on the field in the game that we just played in week 2. And he was a guy that was completely dejected. In the second half, okay, the Maryland Terps went up in this game by like 3 scores in this game. I saw Chris Carter after they scored their first touchdown. He was on the sidelines. As soon as the Terps started to blow out his team, he went in the tent where it's a spot like underneath the scoreboard at the Maryland Stadium where they have a tent for the opposing team to like have Gatorade and have all their water and all that stuff. I saw Chris Carter sit in that tent for the entire second half. Chris Carter, another guy that has played this game at a high level, a guy that's going to be, or I want to say is already a Hall of Famer, knows what to expect from the quarterback position, being a guy that played the wide receiver position at a high level. This is what Chris Carter had to say about Jaxson Dart and how the New York Giants should be proactive in putting Dart out there as early as possible.
Where are you going with Russell Wilson? Like, what do you think that Russell maxed out at this stage of career with those offensive personnel? What do you think? I mean, how many games do you think you can win going against Washington, Dallas, and Philly? Oh, we can win 6, we can win 7, oh, we can win 8. No. Like you'd be like, no, I don't think we can win 8 games. Well, okay, then let's draft a young kid, let's put him in there, get him the reps, and let him play. Because if you're not making the playoffs or you just drafted a kid you traded up for and you don't believe that he's got enough to play right now, well, you drafted the wrong guy. But it's obviously Russell is a Band-Aid. It's obvious Jameis is there still as a Band-Aid in case someone gets hurt. Like, you need to play Jaxson Dart because that's the only thing going to give the fans, the general manager and the head coach, any encouragement about the future.
That's another legend talking about the quarterback position. So we're starting to see a common theme. And this last one that I want to play for y'all, to me, is the most important one of all because we got to see Jaxson Dart leading up to the draft, go on the Gruden show and spend time with the quarterback camp and really got a great deep dive on who Jaxson Dart is as a person. And it made me that much more confident in putting Jaxson Dart as my quarterback too, as far as the hierarchy goes, with the prospects coming into the 2025 NFL draft, even though that was not the popular opinion. You know, you can do a lot of things on the field, but I also think between the ears is super important for the quarterback position in any organization. And when I got to see the way that Jaxson Dart handled business when he went on the quarterback camp with John Gruden, it just gave me that power to feel like, man, if we draft that kid, he could be a future franchise quarterback for sure. At the time, I didn't know that the New York Giants were going to ultimately trade back into the first round to draft Jaxson Dart, but that is what ended up happening. This is what John Gruden had to say after the New York Giants loss on Sunday, and I thought he made some great points here.
Coach, can I ask you a question? You trade up in the first round to get Jaxson Dart. He's going to be the future of your franchise. Why are you wasting week 1? Why are you wasting this opportunity to go ahead and get him in there and throw him out there and let's see what happens?
I don't know. I don't know why. I thought he had an excellent preseason. I don't know why you don't give him all the reps and give him all the development that it takes to get ready to play. This is what the Giants need. They need a fresh start at quarterback, and I think yesterday is a perfect indication to give Jaxson Dart the ball. It's time to move on.
So there you have it. You have all these NFL legends. These are not just some regular Joes that played in the league that might have a podcast. When I'm not shitting on those type of guys, but these are people that have either coached or played the game at the highest level. You talking about Super Bowl winners. You talking about guys that have been in big games and championship games to get to the Super Bowl. You talking about guys that played offensive line at a high level that know how to break down what a quarterback is seeing up front and when a quarterback is under duress, the proper ways to try to get themselves out of those situations, especially if they don't have that athletic ability to do so, which is something that we know about a guy like Russell Wilson. But the unknown that is surrounding Jaxson Dart, I think, is what is keeping fans intrigued in putting him in that lineup. You got Baldy, you got Cam Newton, you got John Gruden, you got Chris Carter. You saw Chase Daniel talking about it early on. You've seen Todd McShay talking about it. You've seen, what's the other guy, Mark Schlereth, that was talking about it early on. It was like, don't even deal with Russell Wilson. And at the time, I thought that was a terrible take because he said that we should cut Russell Wilson. And you already paid him $10 million. You can't just be out there wasting that kind of money. And from what we have already seen from the track record of Jaxson Dart, we know that he has been ready to be thrusted into the spotlight. We saw it in his first game as a true freshman at USC. I've brought this up a bunch on the channel already, where the starting quarterback ended up getting hurt, and Jaxson Dart went out there as a true freshman in a bright spot in one of the biggest universities in all of collegiate football. He went out there and he put up 4 total touchdowns and led his team to a blowout victory. I know that it was just preseason, right? But we saw both of the quarterbacks in preseason, from Russell Wilson to Jaxson Dart. And in 3 games, Jaxson Dart completely lit it up. He was 32 of 47 for 372 yards, 3 passing touchdowns, no turnovers, and 1 rushing touchdown. I think Dart deserves this opportunity. I'm glad that we're not seeing any frustrations from Jaxson Dart coming out as far as, when he's in front of the media. And I think that Brian Daboll's done a good job of kind of, keeping him out of the way of the media so that these questions can get pushed under the rug. But at the end of the day, if Russell Wilson goes out here and he continues to play the type of football that we saw on Sunday, the fans are going to get louder. The complaints are going to get louder. The national media that said that the New York Giants were a team to keep your eyes on and now are completely quiet, you're going to start to see them coming out more and saying that it's time for Jaxson Dart. The national media has no responsibility as far as pivoting off of their takes and flip-flopping from game to game. So you can expect that. And I think that if a couple of weeks go by and you start to see Russell Wilson playing this caliber of football week in and week out, then you can expect that pressure to boil underneath that hot seat that Brian Daboll is going to be on. And honestly, I think that Brian Daboll is absolutely going to have to succumb to that pressure and put Jaxson Dart in the lineup sooner rather than later. I see my dog is in the building one time. Scotty Booms is in the building here. He said trick play, first and goal was wild, especially with that touchdown drought in week one. In week ones, and he's talking about in the previous couple of season openers that we have had. Absolutely one of the most ridiculous plays we've ever seen. Brian Baldinger actually talked about that play as well. He talked about how unprepared and unready Marcus Bowe looked in that spot, you know, being a guy that was probably hearing his first time his name shouted over the loudspeaker saying, Marcus Bowe is eligible as a wide receiver. You just saw it coming, and we did that with Andrew Thomas, and it resulted in a touchdown. But those aren't the kind of things that you want to see your offensive coordinator and your head coach supporting in a week one matchup at the 1 yard line. The New York Giants ultimately ended up getting 7 opportunities, in the red zone during that opportunity that they had there against the Commanders and whatnot. And penalties were definitely saving us, but you come away with 3 points. It's just not a good look. And that was one of the field goals that we came away with in that game against the Washington Commanders. Salute to your Commanders, Scotty, man. You guys got a good W going into week 2 against the Green Bay Packers. Is going to be a little bit tricky. Let me just scroll back here, see who we got in the building, and then we'll keep it pushing on to our next topic here. I mean, that Jaxson Dart needs to start situation is just going to get louder and louder. I see Total Package 210 is in the building. He says, what's good, A? Man, hell nah. Not behind this current offensive line. Not until at least Andrew Thomas is back. 2026 NFL free agency / draft priority number 1 is the offensive line. Total Package is my dog, but I got to disagree with you on this. This is not a JV football team where we're looking at it like, hey, we got a freshman quarterback out here and we don't want to get my son killed. This is a professional NFL quarterback that has a lot of experience under his belt on the collegiate level. 4 years of experience for Jaxson Dart. It reminds me a lot of how Brock Purdy came into the league, and maybe as Mr. Irrelevant, a lot of people didn't think that Brock Purdy would be ready either. But when you have that kind of experience under your belt, this is not a Anthony Richardson situation. This is not a Trey Lance situation. 2 quarterbacks that only had a year of collegiate snaps under their belt. This is a guy that has played in 2 of the biggest collegiate programs that there is in the nation, in USC and at Ole Miss. He's played under Lane Kiffin, a guy that holds his quarterbacks very responsible, and he's a guy that also has his quarterback leading his teams. This isn't a situation like a J.J. McCarthy, who I might add that after the knee injury came out there in week 1 in basically his rookie year and looked decent. I mean, he had some ups and downs, obviously. He was only 13 of 20 in his debut, but still learning on the job. And if you can find a way to get victories while doing that, and J.J. McCarthy being a guy that used his legs as well, if you have your younger quarterback on the roster being the guy who is the guy that gives you the better chance to win, I think you need to go out there and have urgency in putting him out there. As far as Andrew Thomas, we talked about that yesterday on the Giant, or on Monday on the Giant Overreaction. I just think that's a poor excuse to not put your quarterback out there. And for me, as far as the evaluation goes, I would love to see Jaxson Dart playing behind the exact same offensive line that we saw Russell Wilson behind. Then we can have an apples-to-apples comparison. But everybody has their own opinions on it. I'm not here to change anybody's opinions on it. But I do think that just one player out there not being out there, that's not enough reason for me to be able to say, hey, we need to keep my rookie quarterback on the bench. But big shout out to my dog, Total Package 210, in the building. I see DB from EP Live is in the building as well. He said, finally, I'm catching this live, man. It's good to have you here live in the building, going over a few Giant overreactions that aren't necessarily going to have like the true rules that we normally have up here, where we do the O for the overreaction or the U for taking the under, but just a lot of topics that I think a lot of people are overreacting. Shout out my dog, No Mets, No Nets, No Jets, in the building representing the New York Giants. He said, yes. Shit, yes. Yeah, I'm feeling good about this one today, too, man. I told y'all I'm going to be a lot more active with these Giant overreactions and be maybe doubling up, tripling up during the week before we get to the preview show with the Beard here tomorrow, which will likely be right around 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I see Deedon Shelton's in the building. I see Michael Knight is in the building. What's going on, fam? I am Jarrell's in the building. Ricky MB, East Coast Gridiron. Dante been showing big love to Authentic in the Beard. Big salute to my dog one time. Welvin's in the building. Pete Cho, Micah Alexander's in the building. He said, As long as our line looks like that, then no, there's no need to age our rookie 5 to 10 years with trauma and fear. Listen, you want to see how a guy performs under duress, how a guy performs under, those high pressure situations, then put him in one. Imagine if the Cincinnati Bengals would have slow played the way that Joe Burrow came out there and came off that knee injury that first year. And yeah, I'm sure Cincinnati Bengals might have felt the same way Micah felt about thrusting their rookie quarterback out there and getting him injured. But all in all, you see that throwing these quarterbacks out there, for every experience or experiment that you have with a quarterback going out there and failing, you have a guy going out there and then that team realizing that, hey, maybe we got one of them ones. And I think Cincinnati was one of those teams that realized it early on, even with the knee injury. Joe Burrow's one of these dogs. And maybe they could have slow played it the next season going, oh, man, we need to rebuild this offensive line. But instead, you know what they did? They went out there and they drafted Jamar Chase. The rest is history. The Cincinnati Bengals are still trying to repair that offensive line. So I got to give some pushback to that. I Am Jarrell said the jersey is flames. Big shout out my dog, Sir Knock Connection. Man, this jersey is actually from the 1980s. Straight up. Real deal, not no replica vibes. This is the straight up vintage New York Giants legacy uniform with the Carl Lockhart, Spider Lockhart patch on it. Shout out to my dog, man. This is definitely a piece of memorabilia that I'm going to keep for the rest of my life. Lou Mateo's in the building. He says, what up? Last stream started on my lunch break and ended when I got home from work. Good shit. Yeah, we out here, man. We getting to it, man. And y'all know there's not much that I love more than talking about them New York Giants. We got Operation Blue in the building. I see Stacey D is in the building. David Hernandez is in the building. He said, I just want competitive football, not looking like a doormat, not expecting a ton of wins. And that's exactly what we all want. We can't expect the wins in a rebuild right now. I told people on social media yesterday, if you ever feel those frustrations creeping in with the way that the New York Giants are going out there and performing, go back and ask yourself, are the New York Giants in a rebuild? In my opinion, yes, they are. In a rebuild, you can't expect, your quarterback to be going out here and playing elite. We don't have the necessary weapons on the offensive side of the ball, and we damn sure don't have the offensive line. Shout out my dog, Ben Paul, you in the building representing those Commanders. Big W for you guys this past week. Was chopping it up with him yesterday, actually talking a little bit of football here while we were playing some Apex Legends and scoring some goals and some FIFA. Shout out my dog. Let's see who else we got in the building here. Kareem Yee is in the building. Let's see. Hector G is in the building. We got gang in the building, man. Shout out Giants Nation showing up, showing out strong today on this Wednesday afternoon here, talking a little bit of New York Giants football. We got PJ in the building. PJ is saying start him. If Daboll and Schoen are gone, we should figure out if we need to move on from Dart as well. I think that's something to keep in mind as well. Maybe 1 year is not quite enough, but I think we need to throw him out there to the Wolves and see what we got. I'm excited to see when Jaxson Dart will get his first start as a New York Giant. And listen, Jaxson Dart could go out there and straight up ball out and maybe save Brian Daboll's job. Who knows? We'll never know if he's sitting on the sideline with a clipboard. Shout out to Playboy Phil in the building. He said, to be honest, it's not a shocker. We got the same roster as the Bills. Solid defense, lack playmakers on offense. The only difference is they got a top 3 quarterback in the league. Can't be shocked at the team that they've built. That's very true. The Buffalo Bills struggled to build their offense as well. When you look at the guys that they drafted, the weapons that they brought in, Cook was definitely a viable option as far as supporting Josh Allen. But you look at guys like Gabe Davis, Zay Jones, Isaiah McKenzie. All of these guys found ways to be on another team and really have not contributed. But it does seem that Brandon Beane may be onto something here with Keon Coleman. Keon Coleman went out there this past week and absolutely looked like a wide receiver 1. Let's see who else we got in the building. I see a lot of y'all talking a lot of good stuff here. Tone Blue is in the building. Rob, a.k.a. New York Giants fan 48, Kinsala is in the building. He said, yo, what's good, my guy? Salute to you. I see Unknown Ape is in the building. He said, Neighbors is a problem. His pouting forces Daboll to try to get him the ball. Every defense in the league does the same thing. Frustrate Neighbors, double team him, and stop him. Every week last year was the same. There's definitely some validity to this statement from Unknown Ape here for sure. Neighbors is definitely a guy that is clamoring for the football, and you're starting to see the pouting and the energy on the sidelines. I also think that is a product of only having one true touchdown maker, one true bucket getter on your team in Malik Neighbors as far as the offense goes. When you have nobody else that's a threat on this offense, Malik Neighbors is feeling like, hey, if they ain't going to get the job done, I'll get the job done. We can't forget that Malik Neighbors is only 22 years old. On the Giant Overreaction on Monday, I spoke to his behavior on the sidelines. There's no place on this football team for that. But at the end of the day, I thought that when he showed up in front of the media, he did a really good job of showing professionalism and showing some of his maturity going from year 1 to year 2. Again, I'm going to say it. Last year, Malik Neighbors was a 21-year-old that had the whole entire New York Giants organization's their responsibility on the shoulders of a 21-year-old. When you remove your leaders like Xavier McKinney, when you remove your leaders like a Saquon Barkley, when you lose your quarterback to, free agency, when you ultimately end up releasing him, now you lack leadership in that room, and you are putting too much on the shoulders of a guy that is now just 22 years old. But this is a great point from Unknown Ape here. Ray W. is in the building. He said Dart is Daboll's last lifeline. If he doesn't produce immediately, Dabes is toast. That's a fact right there. And that is the big reason why, if I am Brian Daboll, I am going to start Russell Wilson as much as possible. I'm going to try to get him out there for at least 8, 9, 10 games so that when we do pivot to Jaxson Dart, the evaluation period is much shorter, and it'll make it that much more of a difficult evaluation for fans, for the most important person being John Mara as the owner of this team. Let's see who else we got in the building. Let's see. We got DeMario Montague in the building. H-Town TX is in the building again. Good to see you in the building again, fam. Kareem E back here. Kareem E says maybe it's Daboll's overcomplicated offense that has the line reacting slower because they are trying to process the play call and the protections. I think there's some validity to this when it comes to the vocabulary and that is being used within our offense, right? Because that is what a lot of these skill position players have been complaining about, that, one word signifies what everybody on the field has to do. But I had a chance to look at the All-22 over the last couple of days. It don't look complicated to me, man. I saw the New York Giants run the same exact scheme as far as trying to get the ball deep down the field, which was the slot fade. They ran it from 3 different formations. They ran it from a 3-by-1 with Wan'Dale Robinson. They ran it from a 2-by-2 when they did it for Darius Slayton. And they ran it from a variation of a 3-by-1 with Malik Neighbors on the first play of the game, I believe it was. Let me see something here real quick. I did have it exactly on my notes. So the first play with Malik Neighbors, where they ran the slot fade on the first play, where you could tell that it's almost like Brian Daboll is telling Russell Wilson, throw the ball to Malik Neighbors. I want you to throw it to the slot fade. You have Darius Slayton coming to the inside trying to run a bit of a rub route to kind of cause a little bit of traffic that would get Malik Neighbors open. That one was ran out of 12 personnel. That one was actually ran out of 2-by-2 with twins right. Then you had the play number 2, which was ran out of 11 personnel, which was a 3-by-1. The play number 3, which was the Wan'Dale Robinson one, 11 personnel as well, ran out of 2-by-2. And the last one was 11 personnel, ran out of 3-by-1. So to me, that does not scream a lot of complexity within the offense, right? You're running the same thing out of a different lineup. It's interesting. So for me, I think that this is a bit of a basic offense from what I saw on tape. I looked at all the offensive snaps multiple times. I even compiled all of Darius Slayton's routes run in that game against the Commanders and posted them to the channel. If you want to take a look at those, check them out. It'll show you basically all the routes ran from the wide receivers, but it'll have a highlight circle around Darius Slayton. But to me, I don't know if this is a complex offense or not, to be honest. I mean, I'm not an offensive coordinator, but from what I saw, it looked extremely vanilla. It looked extremely basic. Let's see. We got the Beard in the building talking about squad. I think he's talking about the AATB squad, or he's talking about his Washington Commanders, man. Got to give you your props on that W, the Beard. It was a big win for you guys in an ugly, fashion as well, right? It's like it wasn't the best game from the Commanders, but to go out there and just handle business against a team that you're supposed to beat, got to give props where props are due. I see Jameson is in the building. Big shout out to Jameson. I see Christian C is in the building. He said the best television show, not on TV. Big shout out to my dog Christian in the building. Who else we got, man? We got gang in the building, man. I see Mr. Copade is in the building. He says Russ has one game to prove something. Not mad at you on that. We got some dogs representing over there on Twitch. He said, Giants not starting Dart. Shout out to Rummiest in the building representing for our Twitch people over there. I know it's not a lot of folks over there on Twitch, but shout out to my dog Rummiest over there representing for us right there. H-Town said the scheme didn't move the pocket for Russ enough or run 12 or 13 personnel enough to win more at the line of scrimmage. Can't give you a lot of pushback on that. He also said doesn't matter what quarterback is in there, Daboll gets owned by division rivals all the time. So far, that is the truth, with Tommy DeVito, with Tyrod Taylor, with Daniel Jones, with Russell Wilson, and with Tommy DeVito. So that's very true. I'd like to see none of those guys, to me, scream elite quarterback. And I think the question mark surrounding Jaxson Dart is, can he be an elite franchise quarterback? And I want to find that out. Shout out to the Inside Game with the Super Chat here to start us off with the $4.99 Super Chat. Believe it's the first one of the day, and we'll get to these Super Chats. Yes, it was the first one of the day. He said, Daboll's system is not quarterback friendly. 25% of the pass plays didn't have multiple reads versus Washington. No creativity in the run game. A bad offensive line. Dart will struggle. This is why I think Dart has a chance to not struggle, and why I can't sit up here and give you a definitive answer of whether Dart will or will not struggle. One thing you're going to see from me inside the game here is I'm never somebody that will speak definitively about a hypothetical situation, right? But this is what I will say. You said 25% of the pass plays didn't have multiple reads versus Washington. That is probably very true. And I noticed on the tape that there was a willingness for Russell Wilson to focus on his number one read. And then if that number one read was not there, we saw a quarterback that panicked and tried to take his eyes off downfield, started to look down, looking at what was happening at the line of scrimmage and trying to find a way to escape and run and try to find a way to pick up some extra yards. Now, Russell Wilson doesn't have that mobility, escapability like a Jaxson Dart has. I think that one read type of pass plays for Jaxson Dart could actually benefit him. And if that first read is not there, find a way to get out the pocket. One thing that I think that everybody can support here is that what we saw from Jaxson Dart in the preseason from a pocket manipulation and a pocket maneuvering standpoint, he did that much better than Russell Wilson did. And not only did he do that much better, he was much more comfortable under duress when the pressure was getting close. You know, I saw Jaxson Dart multiple times just take one step to the left and buy time, step up in the pocket, and you didn't see a guy that was patting the ball. Oh, I got to get rid of this hot potato. You didn't see that. You saw a guy that was poised. I love that word. He was super poised in the pocket. So I think that I can't sit up here and say definitively that Jaxson Dart will struggle. I don't know. Listen, you got to think about the contradiction that comes from this super chat. Daboll's system is not quarterback friendly. So why did Josh Allen succeed so much with the Buffalo Bills? I think a lot of it had to do with his individual skill set and his capability at the quarterback position to be able to extend plays with his legs. I went back and I looked at a ton of 2021 tape and 2020 tape from Josh Allen to see, and this was during the Daniel Jones era, to see if Brian Daboll was doing things differently within his scheme as far as how he approached it with Daniel Jones at the quarterback position and how he approached it with Josh Allen at the quarterback position. The big difference is that Josh Allen is able to extend plays with his legs, but also keep his eyes downfield half of the time and make plays with his arm, throwing the ball deep down the field, creating explosive plays down the field. We didn't see that from Daniel Jones within the Brian Daboll system. Go back and look at the last couple of possessions from Josh Allen with the Buffalo Bills against the Baltimore Ravens on Sunday night just a couple of days ago. A ton of extending plays with his legs, buying time, making plays down the field to Keon Coleman, and also making plays with his legs. We don't know if Jaxson Dart can or cannot be that guy. And I encourage you guys to not forget, Josh Allen was not like some generational talent quarterback coming out of college. Josh Allen ultimately ended up going 7th, I believe, to the Buffalo Bills. And there were other quarterbacks that were drafted ahead of him. Guys like Baker Mayfield, right? Guys like, I want to say, who was the other quarterback? I think Sam Darnold was drafted above him as well. So it's not to say that Jaxson Dart is in a different situation than a Josh Allen. People didn't think that Josh Allen was a generational type of quarterback that would be top 3 the entire time that he's been in the league, basically outside of his first 2 seasons. So I think that's something to keep in mind. And I always encourage my homies when we talk ball, watch out for the definitive statements. The definitive statements are the ones that get people in trouble. But big shout out to Inside the Game for helping us raise the bar over here and supporting the channel, man. We appreciate that, and bringing your opinion to the table as well. I think there's a lot of validity to what you're saying here about Brian Daboll's system. Shout out to my dog Doom in the building one time with the 199 super chat. He said, take my money. The Giants don't deserve it. That's big facts right there, man. We appreciate you helping us raise that bar with that 199. Big shout out to my dog Doom one time. Zeke Anderson is in the building. What's going on, Zeke? Hope all is well. Appreciate you coming in with that $5 super chat. He said, I'm starting Dart in Texas. End of story. Russ is shrimp fried rice. That's coming from somebody that definitely had a couple of quarterbacks above my dog Jaxson Dart in this draft. So that statement that you got here up on the screen right now definitely holds a lot of weight. Big shout out to my dog, Zeke Anderson, man, coming in here, helping us raise the bar and also bringing a great opinion to the table. Ben Ballew says that Dart got to get the reps, and I think that's the reason why you can't see him start against Dallas here on Sunday. And then, you got to think about the 2 games against the Philadelphia Eagles coming up here. I want to say that's week 4 and week 6. Actually, I think that's week 5 and week 7. But it's going to be 2 games in a 3-week span. on a short week 2 out of the first game going up against the Philadelphia Eagles on Thursday night. So that is important. He's got to get some reps with the first team. But I think Jaxson Dart is a guy that, with the second team reps that he's been getting, I think he's going to be ready. I think he's already ready to go out there and really showcase what he can do. Shout out G05 in the building. I see a bunch of y'all in the building, man. Big shout out to the gang, man. Y'all here, even though the New York Giants are playing lackluster football, y'all are still showing up and supporting this content. Shout out my dog Ricky514 in the building one time. He said, "What's good, Authentic? I'm starting Jaxson Dart versus the Chiefs. I'll be at that game, LOL." Yeah, man, my dog B-Rog hit me up actually through email. I haven't responded to him yet because I'm trying to kind of still figure out a way to make it happen. But he was asking me if I wanted to go to that San Francisco 49ers game. And I think that might be a sweet spot for Jaxson Dart where he might get the start. If it's Kansas City, so be it. That's a good defense, but that is a game that I think that the New York Giants can compete in. The Kansas City Chiefs offense really has not gotten things clicking just yet. Shout out Charles Barkley in the building. Remember, Charles Barkley is not a role model. Y'all know what it is. He said, we fix the offensive line every season, and it's never fixed. That's very true, man. But if you look at, since Joe Schoen talked about that statement where even Patrick Mahomes would not succeed behind this offensive line, he has not done enough to patch up this offensive line since. Not a lot of moves, especially in the draft, Marcus Bowe being the only one. And we are going to talk about the offensive line here in a second and be talking about the draft as well. Big shout out Charles Barkley in the building. Let's see. East Coast Gridiron said the noise for a quarterback switch is always louder after a loss and deafening after multiple losses. That's a fact right there as well, man. Kareem Yee says, I think Daboll switching to Dart will help the offensive line because he simplified the offense for Dart and made it up-tempo. I don't know if he simplified the offense for Jaxson Dart. I didn't get a chance to look at a lot of all-22 from preseason, but when I think about up-tempo offense, I think about the Washington Commanders. In the offseason a year before, when Jaden Daniels was a rookie quarterback, in the offseason, I got to sit in on basically a coach's breakdown of the Washington Commanders offense. It was Darryl Tapp and it was Bobby Ingram, the wide receiver coach over there. And they talked about how Washington was going to run a pretty complex offense, and it was going to be hurry up, a lot of up-tempo. And when we got to the regular season, that is exactly what we saw from Jaden Daniels. And as you got to the middle of the year, Jaden Daniels became very fluent within that offense. And even though, against the New York Giants on Sunday, Jaden Daniels had his fair share of inaccurate passes, but he just looked like a poised, confident, comfortable quarterback in year 2. And I don't know if, up-tempo necessarily makes things less complex, because now you got your quarterback calling the plays at the line. I think it puts more responsibility on protection and calling those protections out at the line of scrimmage. So, I'm not 100% sure about that, but I do think that switching to Dart will help the offensive line, most definitely, because Jaxson Dart is a decisive quarterback. Along with that, being decisive, he's a quarterback that can utilize his legs and has that extra capability of being mobile. So I want to see it. I definitely want to see it. Zeke Anderson said, what if you wait until Andrew Thomas comes back and then Andrew Thomas gets hurt again? Do you then put Dart back on the bench? And I know that Zeke is not suggesting this. He's giving you guys pushback that are saying you want to wait until Andrew Thomas is healthy to start Jaxson Dart. And this is a good point. We have to use our critical thinking here. This is the NFL. We cannot be relying upon one player to suggest why our future franchise quarterback should be in the lineup starting. If Jaxson Dart is the better quarterback and gives the New York Giants the best chance to win, I don't care if it's me, Zeke, Pete Cho, Dante from East Coast Gridiron, and Matt up there on the offensive line. We got to put our best quarterback out there that gives us the best chance to win. And getting hurt is not a reason to be scared or fearful to put that quarterback out there in the lineup. I'm not telling you guys how to think. I'm just telling you guys my opinion out there. At the end of the day, fan how you want to fan. I always encourage people how to do that. And, always go out there and put your opinions out there on the table. But I think we also have to look at the critical thinking and also look at the rationale when it comes to the quarterback position. We're not going to put a better player out on the field simply because another guy out there on the field is hurt. Are we going to do that for guys up front? Are we not going to play Abdul Carter because Dexter Lawrence is not on the field? I think that there's not a lot of rationale that supports those decisions. So I'm right in agreement here with Zeke Anderson. Absolutely. Matt says if this O-line can't hold that Dallas defense, we shouldn't rush Dart. But at some point, I believe Daboll going to have to start Dart and sell the fan base something. Yeah, man. I mean, I just think that offensive line is something that is independent of the quarterback play. Let's see what our offensive line looks like with a better quarterback out there. Let me give you a great example. When you look back at the 2023 season from the New York Giants, where we played 3 quarterbacks that year, Tommy DeVito, we played Tyrod Taylor, and we played Daniel Jones. Tommy DeVito actually took the most dropbacks but Tyrod Taylor had the most passing attempts of any quarterback that year. When you look at the way that the offensive line shaped out that year, that was the same year that Joe Schoen said Patrick Mahomes can't even operate behind this offensive line. But we actually saw Tyrod Taylor operating behind that offensive line. The New York Giants were sacked 85 times in 2023. 17 of those were from Tyrod Taylor. Explain it to me. He was playing behind the same offensive line that all the other quarterbacks were performing behind. In fact, Tommy DeVito had more games than any of the other two quarterbacks with Andrew Thomas. Daniel Jones had 2 games with Andrew Thomas. Tyrod Taylor had 2 games with Andrew Thomas. But yet and still, Tyrod Taylor found a way to get pressured less, had a lower pressure to sack percentage, and also he was sacked less. Just 17 of the 85. Daniel Jones was sacked 30 times, I believe, off the top of my head, and Tommy DeVito was sacked 35 times off the top of my head. That math might not be mathing, but I say all of that to say that Tyrod Taylor, although taking the most passing attempts for the New York Giants in 2023, he was sacked the fewest amount of times. He was sacked half as much as Tommy DeVito. Why is that? You think the offensive line might have just said, hey, man, Tyrod Taylor's back there, man. Let's be on our A game today. I don't think the NFL operates like that. So, again, I encourage people to use the rationale, use the critical thinking here. If you need a simplistic answer as to why Tyrod Taylor was sacked less but took more passing attempts than every other quarterback on the roster, it's because Tyrod Taylor is the best quarterback we had. It's because Tyrod Taylor has that veteran, savvy, decisiveness to go out there. It's something that I thought that Russell Wilson was going to showcase in week 1 against the Washington Commanders, but unfortunately, he wasn't able to do that. Let's see who else we got in the building. We'll take a couple of more, and then I got a few more other topics to talk about, and then we'll get y'all up out of here. Listen, I said this on the Giant Overreaction on Monday that I wanted to keep this show to be a short show, maybe around an hour and a half, 2 hours. At the 2-hour mark, I said that. We ended up going 5 hours. So listen, I'm not giving y'all no guarantees. And if you're betting your money on if Authentic is going to go over the 2-hour mark, I would possibly take the over on this show today. Let's see. I think we got another super chat that came in, a couple of them actually. Shout out to 055197. I love the way you spelled that out right there for supporting the channel and helping us raise the bar with the $2 super chat. He said, I wanted 3, but I think he has 1/2 left to play. I think he's talking about Russell Wilson here before we get to see Jaxson Dart. And listen, I got no pushback. If Brian Daboll wants to start Jaxson Dart, even after saying Russell Wilson is the starter going into Dallas, so be it. I think we need to make the best decisions to go out there and 1, win games, and 2, solidify the future at the quarterback position. Shout out to 055197. I like that right there, man. I appreciate you pulling up and helping us support this channel one time. Shout out my dog John in the building, man. One of my day one supporters over here coming in with the $10 super chat. He said, Russell Wilson isn't going to be here next year. You would want Dart to build continuity with his offensive line as soon as possible. Let him learn NFL defenses. Him sitting tells me Joe and Dabes are looking out for them, not the team. Great point. John, I got no pushback on this one. And you guys know I've already said it a bunch on this stream. If Brian Daboll and Joe Schoen want to, operate in the smartest fashion for them to save their jobs, then they're going to go out there and they're going to play Russell Wilson for at least 5, 6, 7, as many more games as they possibly can. Right there with my dog John here, man. John's been a real supporter on this channel throughout the last couple of years. Big shout out my dog John one time for helping us raise the bar over here on Authentic in the Beard. All right, let's see what else we got. I see H-Town TX says they definitely holding Dart hostage to keep their jobs on or a reason for it. Absolutely, man, and it's a smart move if you look at them thinking that, self-preservation. But as far as New York Giants fans go, yeah, this is definitely going to put us in a position to be able to lose more games. Shout out Walking Free 2019. He said, what's good, Authentic? Always appreciate your content. Best of the Giants content creators. Much respect, man. Big salute to y'all, man. And I think we got, a ton of people in this community that are doing a fantastic job, man. Shout out to Bobby Skinner. I think he's doing a great job. I was talking with my girl about this yesterday. Like, Bobby Skinner is the kind of guy that can be like a one-stop shop for New York Giants fans. He's doing tape breakdowns. He's doing game recaps. He's doing game previews. He's doing offensive line breakdowns. Big shout out to everybody across the New York Giants content creator community. Diggy doing a great job. Big Dash Nose doing a great job. You got Entertainer and Bad Dog doing a play-by-plays, which they do a fantastic job of that as well. Tim from Online Big Blue giving y'all probably the most, I'll say blunt takes there is when it comes to the quarterback position. And then you got us over here at Authentic and the Beard and a bunch of other people. I was just on with Ryan Big Blues podcast yesterday, one of our youngins, 17 years old, man, a senior in high school and doing a great job, presenting Giants content out there for us to be able to digest, man. So salute to everybody across the whole entire New York Giants content creator community, man. I think they're doing a really good job. And shout out Walking Free for, the kind words on the content that we do over here. Shout out MK5. VW said, yeah, I think if Russ looks bad again first half, he is going to put in Dart in the second half. Knowing Daboll, he loves the phrase, looking for a spark. That's exactly what he's going to tell you up there at the podium, too, when they ask him, so why did you put Jaxson Dart in the second half and it was just a one-score game? He's going to say, hey, we were looking for a spark. That's definitely a fact right there. Shout out MK5VW in the building one time. Timmy Football in here rocking out with us. He said, when season started, I wanted to wait until game 10 or 11 for Jaxson Dart. After seeing Russell Wilson is absolutely cooked in capital letters, I'd actually like to see him start week 3 on Sunday Night Football versus the Kansas City Chiefs for the pure drama of it. I'm not mad at that, man. You know what it is, man. Football on Sundays, YouTube on Mondays. And in this rare occasion here, maybe going to be a frequent occasion moving forward, YouTube on Wednesdays. Shout out my dog, Timmy Football in the building. Anthony 2-time said Tyrod won 2 out of 9 games with only 1 2-touchdown game. I don't understand the point you were making. He certainly didn't look good at all. Well, let me just make it very clear for you, Anthony. Tyrod Taylor looked better than all the other quarterbacks on the roster. I'm not sitting up here telling you that Tyrod Taylor is an elite NFL quarterback. Let's not get it twisted, right? What I am saying is that Tyrod Taylor took the most passing attempts of any quarterback in 2023, but he was sacked more than half less than all those other quarterbacks. Explain that. That's as simple as I can put it. When we're talking about dealing with pressure and the overemphasis that the Giants offensive line is this pathetic unit, which they're a bad unit, but the New York Giants don't even have the worst offensive line in the entire National Football League. You want to go out there and see if this offensive line can perform their best? Well, why not put the best quarterback out there that deals with the pressure the best? Again, simply put, this is the point that I am making. Why is it when you put a quarterback who is savvy and has that veteran experience behind an offensive line that is the worst offensive line that the New York Giants have seen, maybe in their history, maybe in their entire existence, that he's not getting sacked as much as the other quarterbacks who are taking fewer dropbacks? I don't know how I can explain that any better, Anthony, 2 times. That's the best I can do to explain it. Maybe somebody in the chat can piggyback on that conversation and make it a little bit more clear and a little bit more concise than I can. Shout out Dinger Dong in the building one time with the $4.99 super chat. Dinger Dong said, Daboll picking Schoen on Hard Knocks off stats on his phone is so crazy looking back at it now. Yeah, man, that looked like an extreme panic move. And, he goes into the office like this, like, yo, Joe Schoen, look, bro, look, Shane Bowen, man, top 10 in red zone defense, top 10 in stopping the run. Well, we're not getting those results over here with Shane Bowen. I'm not going to sit up here and put all the blame on Shane Bowen, but the personnel has been upgraded. You drafted Abdul Carter. You brought in Chauncey Golston. You brought in Darius Alexander, who was a healthy scratch on Sunday. You've brought in Roy Robertson Harris. You've brought in all these players. Let's see this defensive unit get better. And quite frankly, they looked worse against the Washington Commanders and Jaden Daniels. You look at the first 2 games, and this is the worst outing as far as going up against the run. In those 3 games against Jaden Daniels and the Washington Commanders, Giants gave up 220 rushing yards on Sunday, which is the worst in those 3 games. So we got to find a way to get that, just ironed out and be able to stop the run a little bit better. Big shout out my dog Pete Cho in the building. He said, our first didn't look all that great in the preseason, to be honest. We only started scoring when Dart, Winston, and DeVito were out there against the backups. I get the point you're making. This is a great point here. You're right about this. You saw Jaxson Dart. Every time he was in the game, that offense was moving. To kind of go back to the Tyrod Taylor thing, yeah, he only had 1 2-touchdown performance. I forget how many starts Tyrod Taylor had that year. I think it was maybe 4 or 5 starts that year, but he did play in relief as well. But the offense was moving, right? And you see that with Jaxson Dart. The offense is moving when he's in the game. The team looks confident. You never seen Malik Neighbors come from the sideline and jump up maybe 30 feet doing his best rendition of the Olympics high jump here to dap up his quarterback in Jaxson Dart. I haven't seen that kind of energy with Russell Wilson, and I think this team deserves that spark with Jaxson Dart. So I'm right there in agreement with you here, Pete Cho. We got another super chat from our dog, Ray W. in the building, man, and this is the biggest super chat of the day at $20. Big shout out to my dog, Ray W. in the building. He said, I respect your opinion on this. Do you think Daboll is concerned about benching Wilson for Dart due to the lack of African-American starters for the Giants? I don't think that's an issue at all. You look at the New York Giants quarterback room right now, you got 2/3 of it being African-American quarterbacks. I think that the New York Giants not frequently drafting African-American quarterbacks has a lot to do with just having the quarterback position ironed out. You look at the last couple of decades, you had Eli Manning all the way from 2004 to 2019. You had Phil Simms all the way from 1979 all the way up to the early 90s. And then you had a little gap there of just bad quarterback play from Dave Brown to, who were some of the other guys? Danny Cannell. There was a couple other quarterbacks in there. You had Kerry Collins, who had a little bit of a good run for the New York Giants as well. But I think it's just, the Giants have not had the opportunity to really just draft quarterbacks in general. Now that we're struggling the way that we are, you can expect to see us, emphasizing that prioritizing the quarterback position here. They also did draft a black quarterback in the mid-2010s, I believe it was, in Andre Woodson. They drafted him on day 3. So I don't think that that's truly it. And benching Wilson, listen, when you look at Russell Wilson, he doesn't even fit that prototype of an African-American quarterback, to be honest, right? I don't think that's the big issue here. Moving forward, it's just all about putting the best quarterback out there on the field. I do think that this is a good topic to talk about, though, and y'all know over here on Authentic and the Beard, we don't shy away from those topics that a lot of people like to look at as race baiting on the internet. If it's something that people want to talk about, we're going to talk about it. So big shout out to Ray W. for coming in hot with that $20 super chat and helping us raise the bar over here on Authentic and the Beard, man. We definitely appreciate you pulling up and supporting us here one time. So let's see what else we got here. Do we got any other ones? Tone Blue said Dart had a big play on a Russell Wilson drive. Russ still couldn't score a touchdown. Damn. That's a bar. That's a bar right there from Tone Blue, man. That's a bar. That's definitely a bar right there. Let me see. I see Deaton Shelton said, facts to no Mets, no Nets, no Jets. Let me see. No Mets, no Nets, no Jets said, I don't give a shit about the color of the quarterback. Just want him to perform well. Absolutely. Absolutely. This is what I'll say. I'm in 1,000% agreement with you, right? It does not matter what the color of the quarterback is that is taking snaps from under center for the New York Giants at all. Just get the best player out there. I understand people that still think about that, and that's a lingering thought about African-American quarterbacks because of the way that African-American quarterbacks have been treated throughout the history of the NFL. I get it. The lack of opportunity for African-American quarterbacks has been an issue throughout the years. But now you're looking at the NFL has about over half the quarterbacks in the NFL are African-American starters. And I think that that's proof that, even the last organizations that are last to turn that corner are now turning that corner. In fact, you're just seeing more and more African-American quarterbacks get opportunity. And, the color of their skin has not been a reason why they're not getting that opportunity in recent history, we can say. Great point by No Mets, No Nets, No Jets. All right, so let's keep it pushing. Want to get off into a couple of other topics here. And one of the other topics that I wanted to talk about is absolutely the tight end position that the New York Giants have over-addressed over the last 3 to 4 seasons here with Joe Schoen, taking over the general manager position and just overemphasizing the tight end position in the draft. This is going to be a giant overreaction. I'm going to speak for, a pretty lengthy period about this particular topic. But for those of y'all that don't know how we do over here, we're going to place a statement on the screen. When you see that statement, if you think that statement is an overreaction and you don't agree with it, put an O in the chat to represent that you are voting that is an overreaction. And you can tell me why. If you agree with the statement on the screen, you can put a U in the chat to represent that you are taking the under and that you do agree with that statement. If you need a little bit of more time on the statement on the screen and you're a little bit undecided, you can put a P in the chat to represent that you are going to be taking the push. Let's get off into it. Talking about the first, maybe the Jaxson Dart stuff was an overreaction as well, but this will be the true first giant overreaction of the day. I like to feature myself on my show, man. Big shout out to me, give myself a good pat on the back. Tweeted this one out today with Daniel Bellinger's sole target from the game against the Washington Commanders in week 1, where he caught a red zone target for about 14 yards. Beautiful catch going across the middle. Great anticipation from Russell Wilson. Thought it was a real nice play. But this is what I said after the game, and I posted the clip. I said, all Daniel Bellinger does is catch the damn football. This was the best pitch and catch of the day for Russell Wilson versus the Commanders. I know a lot of Giants fans won't say it, but Bellinger deserves to be the starting tight end until further notice. Now let's talk about Daniel Bellinger. And shout out to Frank Bellinger. Frank Bellinger is Daniel Bellinger's father. and he frequently hits me up in the DM. We talk about his son a lot, and I'm on Frank Bellinger's side here that Daniel Bellinger deserves to play more. And I was kind of breaking this down with my girl the other day. Like, when you're a young kid, I can remember my good homie Patrick and his father being at the game. Those are that's the family of why I'm a New York Giants fan till this day. And I can remember Pat's father. Rest in peace to Pat's father, man. He would be on the sidelines when I was playing quarterback, and he would be rooting his ass off for us. And if they ever had me on the sideline or they ever had his son on the sideline, his son Pat played middle linebacker for my high school football team as well. And if we were ever on the sidelines, he's on that sidelines like, put my son Patrick in the fucking game, right? He's one of those fathers that was out there screaming up against the gate, all of that good stuff. I'll never forget when I broke my collarbone too in a week 3 matchup on JV. Pat's father was out there. He's like, let me see it. He rubbed my shoulder. He's like, just stretch it out, man. Get back out there. And that's what I did. I stretched it out. I got back out there. And when we got to practice on Monday, my coach came up to me and was like, man, I think you need to go to the doctor, man. It's looking like you can't even raise your arm. Went to the doctor, had a broken collarbone. Like a thug, I only missed 2 weeks. I was out there telling him I was all good. I was not all good, but I got back out there. We won 6 games that year. But that's not the story here, okay? Daniel Bellinger, his father's out there doing the exact same thing. He's rooting for his son, but he's doing it on an NFL level. Even when Daniel Bellinger's not in the game, it is creating millions of dollars and possibly a little bit of generational wealth for the Bellinger family. But Daniel Bellinger was drafted in the 4th round, just like Theo Johnson. I don't understand why Daniel Bellinger's not getting the same treatment and the same kind of prioritizing that Theo Johnson is getting. 2 drops in Daniel Bellinger's career, 0 drops in 2024. He caught 100% of his targets in 2024. All 14 of his targets, 2 of them being contested, were caught by Daniel Bellinger. He had our best red zone success of any tight end that we have seen during the Brian Daboll era. In 2022, Daniel Bellinger had 6 red zone targets, 5 receptions, 2 touchdowns, receiving touchdowns, and he also even had 1 rushing touchdown where he had a jet sweep. Daboll has already proven that he can target a tight end who is not a premier elite talent. And that is what I view Daniel Bellinger as. I look at Daniel Bellinger as he's not a George Kittle. He's not a Travis Kelce. He's not a TJ Hawkinson. He's not a Sam Laporta, but he is a guy that can go out there and get this job done. Daboll showed you that he can target the tight end. In 2020 and in 2021, the Bills were 3rd in scoring, and a lot of that had to do with the way that they prioritized the tight end position. In 2020, he had 18 red zone targets to the tight end position for 8 touchdowns. In 2021, he had 19 red zone targets to the tight end position for 7 touchdowns. That's 15 red zone touchdowns to the tight end in a 2-year span. The New York Giants only had 15 passing touchdowns all last season. Now, you look at Theo Johnson, and I think he's a player that the New York Giants absolutely should not give up on. I think he's a player that possesses a decent skill set. But as a young player, as a rookie, why are we prioritizing Theo Johnson over the guy who is more experienced in that room with Brian Daboll? Theo Johnson came into the NFL last season, and he had 6 drops in 44 games at Penn State. He had 5 drops in 2024 in just his rookie campaign. He had 2 drops in my eyes on Sunday. I saw PFF labeled it as just 1 drop. Why are we continuously rolling a guy out there who is a liability in the passing game? And these are some easy drops. I saw a lot of people say that the drop on the left, in the left flats from Russell Wilson that Theo Johnson had was a play that was probably dead. It was a 3rd and 10 play. Russell Wilson checked down. I thought Theo Johnson had about 6 yards of green grass, and then he was going to see a defender. Who knows? If you're the talent that we think you are, maybe you can break a tackle and get that first down. But the drops have been concerning from Theo Johnson, and that's something that we cannot ignore. I think that Daniel Bellinger deserves more opportunity. Daniel Bellinger caught 90% of his career targets. Come on, y'all. 70% of his career contested targets. He's caught 7 of 10 contested targets. He's never had a season under 80% catch rate. He had 72 receptions on 80 targets entering the season. And again, just 2 career drops. 3 touchdowns as a rookie with the 6 red zone targets his rookie year. And he has had 1 target in the red zone in 2023, 1 target in the red zone in 2024, and 0 touchdowns since. In his career, including Sunday's matchup, he's had 11 red zone targets and 8 red zone receptions. What are we not seeing here? This kind of productivity should have Daniel Bellinger getting more playing time. Instead, year by year by year, Daniel Bellinger is on the field less and less and less. In 2022, he was on the field for 72% of the snaps. In 2023, we traded a third-round pick to go out there and get Darren Waller to be Daniel Jones, wide receiver 1 at the tight end position, and Daniel Bellinger's snaps regressed from 72% to 62%. And then we got to 2024, and his percentage went all the way down to 32%. The crazy part of all of this is that Daniel Bellinger is only 24 years old. He's about to turn 25 here in about a week and a half when he turns 25 on September 22nd. His red zone reception was the best pitch and catch again of the game. And the Giants had 2 red zone targets to the tight end position on Sunday. That's just 1 less red zone target than the New York Giants had all of last season. The Giants only had 3 red zone targets to the tight end position in all of 2024, and we had 1 less in the game on Sunday. So I am seeing the effort from Brian Daboll to prioritize that tight end position and get those looks when we're in the red zone. But this is something to keep in mind here. Daniel Bellinger had just 1 red zone target in all of 2024. And when did it come in? It came in the week 1 matchup, which was against the Minnesota Vikings. And he now has 1 red zone target on the year so far, which came in the week 1 matchup against the Washington Commanders. All I can do is sit up here and cross my fingers and pray to God, the football gods, that Brian Daboll is going to continue to target Daniel Bellinger in the red zone. And hopefully, just hopefully, we can see Daniel Bellinger get into this lineup and have the opportunity, most importantly, to be a contributor within the New York Giants offense going into the rest of the 2025 season. Let me see how y'all feel about this one here, and then we'll keep it pushing. We'll go into the next topic here. I'll scroll back, and if some of y'all want to reiterate your topics here, you can double down and reiterate your stance here in the chat. I'll just scroll back about 20 because the chat is absolutely booming. Shout out to the Giants Nation in the building today, y'all. All right, Dwayne Mason says, can't argue with you, Authentic. You're on point with this. Shout out to my dog, Dwayne Mason, in the building, rocking out with us today. No Mets, no Nets, no Jets, says Theo looks like Rock'em Sock'em robots out there. My OG's going to know about that one. Shout out Say Less NYC, said Theo got upside, but he needs to get his mind in the game. That's very true. That's very true. Pete Cho said it's because Shane and Dabes like to base the team on what's on paper rather than actual skill. It's a great point right there, man. Robin Matthews said Theo can't catch a ball of duct tape. Damn. Say Less said want to see more 2 tight end sets, better for run blocking. That's true, man. We want to see 12 personnel be out there, and that'll help us. It'll be a little bit more predictable, but if we can line up and get that running game going, I'm all for it. Shout out my dog, Illa, one time, a content creator I forgot to mention in that rant that I did. Illa, one of the best out here, man. Y'all go show Illa some love over there on his YouTube channel, man. He's doing great things over there. Illa says, I always thought Bellinger could be the tight end we thought we were getting in Caden Smith. That's a great point right there as well. Like, we've seen it with the New York Giants through the Super Bowls that we won with Eli Manning. You don't need a elite tight end at the position to be able to go out there and succeed. Now, Jeremy Shockey was responsible for a lot of the success in the first Super Bowl with Eli Manning, right? But then he ended up, ultimately being hurt and whatnot. But he was a part of the success there. But then you look at guys like Kevin Boss who were contributing as well. We don't need, some George Kittle at the tight end position. We just need good quarterback play. We need guys out there that we can rely on. As Joe Shane and Brian Daboll have said a ton. What is it? Smart, tough, dependable. That's what we need at the tight end position. Absolutely facts right there from Illa. Dean Shelton said even at the goal line, he was supposed to block the linebacker and didn't. He didn't have the sense to turn around and become a target for Russell Wilson. Easy touchdown missed. Great point right there. Shout out Big Blue Jays in the building. He said, I like Bellinger in his first year. I never understand why they kept drafting tight ends and signed Waller. Complete baffling. It is, man. I've talked about it a ton on Bleacher Report and over here on YouTube. There's no reason to keep readdressing the tight end position for the New York Giants year in and year out. Lou Mateo said, Bellinger mess around and become a prime Kyle Rudolph for the Vikings on a different team. That's very true. Pete Cho said Theo has to practice catching toilet paper rolls like stone hands in necessary roughness. Yeah, man. And kind of like Hot Hands Hanen in Little Giants. That's a fact right there. H-Town said bring in Jeff Hafley. Give him the blank check now, Mara. Get back to Giants smash mouth football. We do got to get back to those ways, man, and redefining the old definition that we had of what New York Giants football truly is. Dinger Dong said Daniel Bellinger is a perfect tight end for a power gap scheme. Can't argue that. Say Less said we passed on Harold Fannin Jr. last year for Darius Alexander. Great point here, man. I talked about this on Bleacher Report a ton, and I'll just never forget this one dude. His name is Cabs NYC. If you ever see him on Bleacher Report, This dude was saying some of the most nonsensical shit when I did a breakdown of Harold Fannin Jr. talking about we don't need to be looking at Harold Fannin Jr. We don't need playmakers on the offensive side of the ball. I sat there and scratched my head like, what the fuck are you talking about, my dog? Shout out to Say Less NYC. This is facts right here. Harold Fannin Jr. looks like he's going to have a great career. Christopher Moody said, if we can see this and the coaching staff can't, that's crazy. Very true. Ben Ayers said he agrees with the statement on the screen. Easy decision. A quarterback wants a player who catches the ball. It's pretty simple. Scotty Booms in the building said, football gods don't reside in the Meadowlands. You know, the Lombardi case says a little bit otherwise, but as of late, the football gods have not been answering our prayers. But, you know, sometimes you have to, you know, keep your faith and your belief in the gods, you know, even when things are not going your way. You know, at times when I say my prayers to the gods, I don't always just pray for good luck for myself. I pray for some of my other homies, Scotty being one of them. I pray for some people that might need, you know, more help from the football gods or from the gods in general. So, you know, at times, you know, you can't just look at the results that you're getting in your life, and you still got to stay faithful, not blindly, right? But we still got to stay faithful. And we know that the gods, football gods included, they're going to work their magic when the time is right. There's nothing like God's timing. And we can only hope that, you know, with the New York Giants and Meadowlands in particular, the timing is correct. Shout out my dog, Scotty Booms. Timmy Football says he agrees with the statement on the screen. He's taking the under. He should definitely be the starter. He's never let us down. Very true. Shout out my dog, Rich Westcott, in the building again. He said, shout out to number 4, Titans, 98, JV, 10-1. Rich Westcott was on that team. If you know, you know. Although when we were 10-1, I was the backup that year. I was only about 5'3", along with you, Rich. But they would bring me in for the deep shot. You remember that? Boy had a cannon. They were like, yeah, you know, when we need to throw them Hail Marys and we need to throw the ball far down the field, we'll bring Authentic in and we'll let him throw the ball down the field. I was probably about a 1 for 5 that season throwing deep shots down there one time. But, hey, I was pushing the ball down the field. Shout out my dog, Rich Westcott, in the building. Christian C. says, this one of your best episodes, Authentic. Salute, man. And, you know, yesterday I had a couple of, you know, just some chapters that I kind of wanted to talk about, some topics I wanted to talk about. And I was like, man, if I put a good hour into this show, I think that this could be a really good show. I actually told my girl that before going live today. So shout out to Christian for recognizing, man. I see JMYG is in the building. Salute, brother. Appreciate you being here today. H-Town said the coaching sucks. Doesn't matter who is on the field. Incompetent, incapable of elevating talent or developing talent. That's very true. Januel Garcia said he's taking the under because Bellinger has earned it. But I also like keeping Theo out there because I think the upside is higher. Theo just hasn't found his stride, but I think he would with more in-game opportunities. I love this take right here from Januel because this is a good point. We can't give up on Theo Johnson. And at the same time, we've seen people talk about, you know, they want to see more 12 personnel with 2 tight ends out there. And at all, we could fuse all these last, you know, statements that we've seen from the chat here and some of the stuff that I've been saying. And that's exactly what the conclusion should come to. It doesn't mean that Theo Johnson needs to go to the bench and not be utilized. You can still have him out there on the field, but I think Daniel Bellinger has earned himself a little bit more opportunity and should be the starter. John said he's taking the under. What the fuck did Belly even do to lose his job in the first place? Theo didn't prove shit to earn that tight end 1 spot. Had Ingram PTSD watching Theo play versus Washington. Another great point here from the chat, y'all. Ray W. said Theo couldn't catch gonorrhea from Thailand. Whew, that's a tough one right there. Dwayne Mason said 12 personnel and play Chapman at fullback. I want to see us punch people in the face. So those will be 2 things that are a little bit separate unless you want to try to go with 22 personnel, which could have a fullback out there, right? But if we're going 12 personnel, we're going 1 running back here. But I agree with you. Let's mix it up. Let's go a little 12 personnel. Let's go with a little bit of, you know, 2 running back sets where we can have Chapman be out there and be a guy that, you know, can be that fullback. But you can't forget that Chapman was a guy that ultimately was cut from the roster, and he is on the practice squad. So you got to find a way to elevate him to the 53-man roster as well. But I like where Dwayne's mind is thinking. This is a good point here as well. Let's see. H-Town TX said Jeff Hafley is going to be the next best coach that will day one turn the organization around. You can't let him pass by like they have allowed many great coaches to pass by. Very true. And the New York Giants are probably going to be, you know, in a coaching search here very soon if things don't change. That's a good point there. Solitary Camp says, don't know what Theo did to start over Bellinger. Very true, very true. And he also said, don't get started on Manhurts. That's a fact. Jaji05 says he's taking the under. Bells would have caught that red zone target and scored on that Theo drop. Could have passed, changed the trajectory of the game. Can't afford upside and need definitive play. Bells provides that. Good point right there. Shout out my dog, bless up KG. Back to back, my Bleacher Report homies in the building said Bellinger is being done dirty. Have to wonder what's going on behind the scenes. Absolutely. Shout out 055197. He said, once you're in Daboll's doghouse, arms like there's no getting out. He said Bellinger and Hyatt, not sure why Bell is in the doghouse, though. That's the thing. Like with Jalen Hyatt, we can kind of understand why he's in the doghouse. But yeah, man, with Daniel Bellinger, it's very tough. Timmy Football said, authentic preaching. He said, Christ is king. Let's go. Yeah, man, you got to have God in your life, man. That's very important, at least for me. I'm not one of these people that's knocking on doors telling you what you got to do with your faith. And I'm not even somebody that follows a particular religion per se. But I'm definitely a spiritual person. I pray to God every day, bro, every day. And I'm blessed. I also pray to God for, as many blessings that have came into my life, man. I know that I'm somebody that's extremely fortunate to be able to do what I do on a daily basis. And, a lot of people out there got to go out there and grind a lot harder than I do, man. I'm just trying to work smarter and thank God that I have that opportunity to do that. Shout out Timmy Football. Hyphen Wade said, Big U, it frustrates me to see Brian Daboll undermine the fact he's been one of the more consistent pass catchers in that position. The doghouse situation still confuses me. Absolutely. Absolutely. Shout out to Chef Oz in the building, man. Been rocking with Chef Oz for a little while here. He said, not paying attention to this team until they show me something different. I'm tired of New York field goal Giants. Good point right there. Yo, Rich Westcott said, I never seen a skinny cat launch the rock like that. Kensington Daycare Football Field. I clocked that cannon. He taking us back in time. So we had this little rivalry, right? Like I represented one elementary school back in the day when I was a kid. And shout out to my dog, Nate Owens. He represented another elementary school. And he was like, yo, my elementary school, man, we could dog y'all. So one day, me and my goons, my Sandbach goons, we ended up marching over there to their field and we played them. Richie Westcott was on the opposing team. And your boy was out there slinging it, man. We took care of business, man. That's one thing I could do back in the day was throw the football. These days, not so much, man. I'm losing some of that shoulder mobility, but yeah, Rich Westcott can attest to the boy having a cannon back in the day. I used to definitely throw that football a good length, man, and very accurate back in the day, and that kind of got me on the field a little bit, in my high school days and whatnot. Shout out to my dog, Rich Westcott, in the building, representing for them Titans, man. And I want to say all that happened, like, we played at a school where, like, 45 years of losing. And then we came they rebuilt the new school. They gave us new uniforms, had the black jerseys on the back door of Coach Ashwell's office. It was a beautiful thing. It was very motivating. Like, man, we're going away. We used to look like the Houston Oilers. That was our jersey combination, that baby blue. And then that freshman year, we got into that school, man. Yo, we brought them black jerseys out, man, and the rest was history, man. It was a beautiful thing. But shout out my dog, man. That's my day one right there, man. We played we was in the marching band together. Yo, we go back to middle school together, man. That's my dog, Rich Westcott, man. Salute to you, fam. I appreciate you pulling up and getting to rock out with us today. A lot of yous, man. A lot of yous here. Zach G said he's taking it under. Theo Johnson has shown nothing but regression. Bellinger, while not flashy, is a consistent or a constant professional. Facts, man. Facts. Tremaine James is in the building. He said, hey, what up, man? Love the content, man. Big salute to Tremaine rocking out with us today. Bless up KG said players who left and had success after leaving. Julian Love, Evan Ingram, Xavier McKinney, Saquon Barkley. If DJ has success, it's obvious who and what is the problem. I will remove Daniel Jones from that because we did get a chance to see Daniel Jones play underneath two other coaching staffs, right? Yeah, 2 other coaching staffs and 3 other offensive coordinators. So I think, Daniel Jones, the big problem is consistency. We knew he could play at a high level at times, but consistency has been the thing. I think we knew what Saquon was when he was here as a Giant. We knew what Julian Love was as a Giant. We knew what Evan Ingram was, a guy that dropped the ball occasionally, but still a playmaker. McKinney, we already know, right? Daniel Jones, I think, is a guy that we can kind of separate from that, that group of players. I think Daniel Jones is a guy that just lacked consistency throughout his career, whereas the other guys didn't. Maybe Evan Ingram falls into that category as well. Stacy says he's taking the under. We haven't had a great tight end since Shockey. That's facts. That's definitely, let me make sure. Yeah, that's facts. That's definitely facts. Timmy Football said Andrew Thomas not training again. Trade him. Yeah, he's out of practice today. It's unfortunate, man. And, my plug was telling me that Andrew Thomas should play this week, but we shall see. Maybe he's having a setback. I'm not going to go out there and expect Andrew Thomas to be on the field on Sunday against the Dallas Cowboys. Zach G said organizational issues are a bigger issue. Yeah, they are. They definitely are. Shout out Jay Fed in the building. Says, are we really saying Evan Ingram having success? That's low-hanging fruit. Evan Ingram absolutely had success. Did you see him in the first year with Trevor Lawrence in Jacksonville? That dude was a dog. Now, he kind of regressed the next year there and, dealt with some injuries at the quarterback position as well. But I think everybody knows what Evan Ingram is. He was just a guy that had drop issues here, but he was still making plays. That's one thing that Evan Ingram has always done in his career, make plays. Jaji05 said, with a squad like ours, can we even afford a doghouse? Good point. If you can play, you stay. If not, you gone. Throw everyone in the deep and see who swims. Daboll, stop the doghouse BS. It's wasted energy. Good point, man. Great point. Dwayne Mason said, no more Jones talk. I'm with you on that, bro. I'm with you on that. John said, I am more critical on the defense, man. He says, use what the defense is until it fully becomes your style. Still wink type of players, blitz instead of prevent defense. Use a Debo and Holland, ball hawk skills to your advantage. It's another great point right there, man. The chat is dropping gems here. Yeah. And Jay Fed says the Jags released him. And the reason why the Jags released him is because they've screwed up the contract. And don't forget, they changed general managers, right? They went through different general managers, just switching personnel and philosophy. That changes what players you want on the roster. Christian Kirk was another guy that got released by the Jacksonville Jaguars too. Does that mean Christian Kirk stinks? I don't think so. Got to disagree with that. Bookend Tackles is in the building. He said, Dart talk. I like that. Timmy said Evan Ingram rookie year was actually really good. It was. That's probably the true last good tight end play that we saw. Darren Waller had some success, but the injury kind of derailed that. Solitary Camp said, what about starting Abdul over Kayvon? Or put Abdul beside Bobby since McFadden is hurt? I think we need to experiment with all options here. Put your best players on the field. Not opposed to doing that, Solitary Camp. Shout out Sebastian, who just pulled up in the building, said Evan Ingram would be our second best playmaker on offense if he was on the roster. Ain't that the truth? Ain't that the truth, bro? Like, yeah, most definitely. That's a fact, man. So as far as it goes with the Daniel Bellinger being the starter, seems that most people agree that this is not an overreaction here and that, a lot of people took the under and that Daniel Bellinger, he definitely has afforded himself some more opportunity. But Brian Daboll and these guys are not necessarily doing that. Shout out Adrian B in the building. We got a first timer. He said, first live, bro. I'll be around more often for sure. Gave me the handshake. There's the handshake back right there. There's the salute back right there, man. Salute to you, fam. Welcome to the family, my dog. K4M the Great said Evan Ingram had back-to-back career years in Jacksonville, 760 in 2022 and 900 in 2023. I'm telling you, man, I think people just don't be watching across the league. Like, I think a lot of people just remember Evan Ingram dropping the ball with the New York Giants on, what was that? I know it was primetime. I think it was Thursday Night Football against the Philadelphia Eagles where that ball went off his fingertips and it would have closed out the game. But they're not really watching Evan Ingram across the league. And that's why I think that, playing fantasy football is actually a great benefit to fans because it just keeps you hip to what's going on around the league and what players are excelling. Let's see. K4M the Great said that Evan Ingram had backed. Oh, we got that one already. And let me just double check over here. Yeah, I got those. Solitary Camp said, love your content and the chat. Y'all be talking facts, man. I swear I got the best chat in the world, man. Shout out to the family in the chat, man. Y'all know what it is. This is not a fan base. This is a fam base, man. This is all family over here, man. Big shout out to y'all for contributing to this little small corner of the internet, man, called Authentic and the Beard. Brownie said, I always liked Ingram. Almost got his jersey back in his G-Men days, LOL. Yeah, I liked Ingram too, man. It was just the drops. And I used to try to encourage people, man, like, don't rag on Evan Ingram. When he'd be in the stadium and he dropped the ball, boo, everybody, boo, boo, boo. It's like, man, that's not helping that guy. He's one of our better playmakers. Try to encourage him. I get it. Fans going to do what they do. I'm not sitting up here telling you, boo-hoo, don't boo. But, like, man, support your players that are actually out there contributing to the roster and, more importantly, contributing to the offense. Jay Fed said, I watch Ingram. He's nothing special. I don't think anybody's sitting up here telling you he's special. We're not saying that. But he would be special on this roster. Disagree with that, Jay Fed. Where would Evan Ingram rank in the hierarchy of playmakers right now? He'd be at best top 3. He's better than Tyrone Tracy. He's better than Darius Slayton. You could maybe say Wan'Dale Robinson, obviously Malik Neighbors, but nobody's sitting up here telling you that Evan Ingram is a special elite talent. He's the best tight end in the fucking league. No, we're not saying that. He's a serviceable player, and he can be a contributor, just like Daniel Bellinger. just like Daniel Bellinger. Sebastian said Daboll and Schoen have the bad habit on being stingy with players they covet and playing them over players that deserve the playing time. Facts, man. Facts. H-Town said Newbin in the box is the solution, with Carter being our Michael Parsons wrecking the game. Possibly. I was high on, Tyler Newbin coming into the draft. He was one of the best safeties in that draft, but from what we've seen on the field, he looks slow, lacking the playmaking, lacking the ball skills to be able to go out there and get the interceptions that we saw him get when he was at Minnesota. It's been tough, man. It's been tough. David Hernandez said, I always watch across the league. My second favorite team is my hometown Buffalo Bills, and they are legit now. LOL. Yeah, they're legit, man. That comeback against the Baltimore Ravens on Sunday night was absolutely amazing. And like you're doubling down here and talking about, man, it's important to watch the teams across the league. I heard people saying, like, looking at the box score of Cam Ward and being like, man, Cam Ward out here struggling, right? And then they watched the primetime game with J.J. McCarthy, and they're like, oh, J.J. McCarthy looks great. It's like, let's be rational here, right? We can't just look at the box score for one guy. J.J. McCarthy was 13 of 20. I know Cam Ward struggled as far as the box score goes, but if you look at the play and if you look at some of the data that's coming out, they talked about 90% of his throws were on target. How do you finish with the completion percentage hovering around 50? Well, guys around you not making plays. So always encourage people to watch across the league. Even if you're just watching Red Zone, fantasy football is a great way to do it. Zach G said, I'm 24 years old and the offensive line has been bad since 2012, and it's been nearly 14 years and the offensive line is still an issue. Bad quarterback play will do that, but also bad drafting, bringing in personnel that's not top-notch. All those things contribute to this offensive line being terrible. Shout out E. Banks in Georgia in the building. He said, let's get the likes up. Y'all smash the like button. That's cool. Y'all want to like the likes, do your thing. If you don't want to like the like and you here just chilling behind the scenes, just vibing, that's cool too, man. It really don't matter to me, man. Like, I really like this core of people we have over here on Authentic in the Beard. And if people, if we grow this community and people like the content that we're putting down here, that's a good thing, at the end of the day. But it's nothing. I like that y'all in the chat be encouraging people to get those likes up, because ultimately that'll get us seen by more viewers. But it is what it is. I appreciate all 152 of you that are here right now in the building. Let's see. Sebastian said I used to use Evan Ingram crazy on Madden. Yeah, me too, bro. Evan Ingram was a guy. Blue Sky Watcher said, thank you for bringing some intelligence to the sport. Hey, man, thank you for recognizing that, brother. I appreciate you being here today and rocking out with us. Jay Fed said on this roster, he'd still be dropping balls. Maybe, but he'd still be making plays too, right? The Giants lack playmakers, man. They lack playmakers. Nobody's saying, go out there and go get Evan Ingram, man. We're not, come on, man. Blue Sky Watcher said, thank you for bringing, okay, yeah, he kind of just updated that one a little bit there. Timmy Football said, speaking of fantasy, keeping people updated, Juwan Johnson went off week 1. Juwan Johnson always doing that, man. Don't know how old he is, but potential trade in the future. Yeah, definitely a guy to keep your eyes on for sure. All right, let's see this. I see, man, the chat is, bless up KG said, now fuck that. Smash that like button. Shout out KG. The Illa said, tell them Authentic. Fantasy football is extremely beneficial when it comes to talking ball. If you don't know everything going on around the league, you're at a big disadvantage in fantasy. Absolutely. And man, look, I even think playing Madden helps you out as far as scheme, philosophy, play design, all that stuff. I was watching Kirk Benkert just yesterday, and he has those streams that he's been doing pretty much daily that are sponsored by EA Sports. I recommend you guys check out Kirk Benkert. He's a former NFL quarterback. He definitely knows his stuff. But they were talking about how these dudes watch film on Madden. Like in those big money leagues where they're doing those tournaments for like hundreds of thousands of dollars, that they're watching tape on some of the Madden players. I was like, wow, we are at a different point in time from what I remember back in the day, because in Madden 92, when that ambulance would come out on the field when somebody got hurt and the ambulance would run over all the players and push them out the way with the car, I was never thinking about looking at no tape on Madden. But, nowadays, all that stuff will benefit, our football knowledge. Madden is trying to be a real-life simulation of what we see on the field on Sunday. So all that stuff will benefit us. Let's see what else we got here. Dinka Kong said, if we win 3 games again, trade Dex, start over. Yeah, I mean, look, I'm not opposed to clearing house, at all if we're going to go out there and win 3 games again. I talked about trading Dexter Lawrence. I talked about trading Andrew Thomas before the beginning of this rebuild at the conclusion of 2022 and the beginning of 2023. I talked about that. They opted to go in the direction of building around Daniel Jones, and it didn't work. I'm not sitting up here telling you that we should have traded Dexter Lawrence and Andrew Thomas. But like when you look at some of these other teams around the league, there has been success at trading a cornerstone piece to build your team and get more viable assets out there that can contribute to more wins. If you guys want to check it out, I had a video on the channel here that broke down the Miami Dolphins rebuild and how a lot of that started off with the Lermy Tunsil trade that allowed them to bring in multiple first-round picks, and then they ended up flipping another first-round pick to the San Francisco 49ers, which was the Trey Lance pick, and ultimately ended up having like 4 first-round picks from the Lermy Tunsil trade. So it's not looking that good for Miami right now, obviously, but they definitely brought in some high-caliber players, and we're knocking on the door of some playoff berths there by trading a cornerstone piece. So definitely recommend y'all checking out that video. Just search Lermy Tunsil on the channel. You'll find it. Let's see what else we got. Shout out Zach G in the building, man. Appreciate you pulling up, rocking out with us, and contributing to the channel with that $5 super chat. He said, not football related, but now I am officially a college graduate since May of this year. Now beat those Cowboys. Yo, big congratulations to my dog Zach G in the building one time, who is now a college graduate, man. That's major right there, man. That's stuff like, man, look, man, that make me think about How High, right? You know, when Redman was he was in his mother's living room cleaning up, and she was telling his dirty ass that you need to get out here and get to a college. And she was talking about, you know, the barber's master degree on the wall. You know, that's something that you hang up on the wall, bro. That's something that my Dukes could put in the living room. Like, look at that degree right there. You know, them degrees, man. Shout out them degrees, man. Big shout out to my dog, Zach G, one time in the building, man. Raising that bar right now at just the age of what? What'd he say, 25 years old or something like that? Said he a youngest, so that's an amazing thing, man. Big salute, big shout out to my dog, Zach G, one time. All right, let's see before we get off into the next giant overreaction. I'll take this last one. Take 2 last ones here from Bless Up KG and from John. And I see El Jefe's in the building too. Bless Up KG said the problem is what could you get for AT now with the injury history? That's why that window might have kind of just came and went. That's a good point right there from Bless Up. John said Giants are making me look forward for hockey season already. What do you think Tyreek's trade value is? I know he had a bad season last year, but Malik and Tyreek Hill sounds good to me. Listen, if the Miami Dolphins experiment with trading Tyreek Hill, that is absolutely a dude that I would bring in. Let me see what his age is, more importantly. Last year, he did have about 900 yards, but we did see some struggles at the quarterback position with Tyreek Hill, you know, dealing with Tua not being out there a lot and having to have Tyler Huntley coming at the quarterback position. But Tyreek Hill's 31 years old. Yeah, I would still trade for him. I think he's got a lot of great football left. El Jefe said, congrats, Zach. Welcome to the real world. Make it your playground. That's what's up, man. Shout out to my dog, El Jefe, in the building. Another great New York Giants content creator. Go check them out, man. New York Revival on YouTube. And James Williams is in the building, too. He said, big salute. Shout out to James Williams, another dude who's kind of a content creator as well over there, rocking out with Tim from Online Big Blue. Shout out to the fam Ambassador 130 in the building with the $9.99 super chat. The beer would love this one right here. He says, in preseason, Jaxson Dart showed willingness to get to the backside of plays and work the middle of the field. Ooh, didn't he? He was definitely showing the backside dig capability. He says, even passing on open first options to get to a deeper read. Didn't see that with Russ on Sunday. That's a fact, man. That's a fact. And yes, preseason, but reps are reps. And I'm more, the more and more I become more knowledgeable about football and studying it from an analytical perspective, like I've been doing over the last, I'd say, better part of the decade, the more and more that these things become important with the reps. You know, when you see Jaxson Dart go 1, 2, it ain't there. Backside dig, anticipation with a capital A. Shout out to the quarterback school. Those are the things that we can hang our hat on. Ambassador 130 was spot on right here, man. And appreciate you not only supporting the channel, helping us raise the bar, but while doing it, consecutively dropping gems right now in the chat, man. Big salute to my dog one time, Ambassador in the building. That definitely goes a long way. Let's see what else we got. Ben Ball, you said, I just want to give some love to my boy Bill and his double-digit touches from 4th on the depth chart. Yeah, man, he's talking about Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt, also known as Bill. Ben will attest to this. I texted him the day they drafted him. Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt is one of them guys. Showed him the Shrine Bowl cut up that I had, you know, from his highlights from that game, you know, leading up to the draft and whatnot. Krosky Merritt, he just runs tough, man. He's a very well-rounded running back. He reminds me of a 90s running back that has, the power, the speed, the agility, the explosivity, does it all, man. I think he's going to be a better running back for you guys, and I scooped him up on fantasy, and he was a big part as to why my fantasy football draft was graded a D- by Yahoo Sports, because they thought that Ja'Cory Krosky Merritt was being drafted too early, and I think I got him in the 6th round. Kind of crazy. But shout out my dog, Ben Ball. Hope you got an off day here. Once I get off live, you already know what it is. We're going to hop on them sticks one time. All right, let's get to this next one here. Let me see what this one had. Timmy Football said, I've contemplated doing a Giants YouTube channel, but does anybody really want to hear a British guy talk ball? He said, probably not, but I know ball. Do your thing, man. If you want to, if it's a passion for you, go out there, create a channel, man. And if you need any help as far as audio, visual, whatever, man, you know where to find me, bro. All right, let's get off into this next Giant overreaction, and then we're going to get y'all up out of here. It's been an hour and 34 minutes. We're pushing that 2-hour mark here again. We are definitely pushing that 2-hour mark here again. And last time I said let's cut it to 2 hours, we went 5 hours, so I'm not going to say that today. But let's go ahead and get off into this next Giant overreaction. This one's going to be a fun one. Let's get to it. So this one comes from your boy Authentic again. And I said Joe Schoen's 2023 draft class is shaping up to be a massive failure if things don't change quickly. If you think that this is an overreaction and you don't agree, put an O in the chat. If you agree with this statement on the screen, especially after I give you some more nuggets on the 2023 draft class, you can put a U in the chat to represent you are taking the under. Excuse me. And if you need a little bit more time to assess the 2023 draft class, you can put a P in the chat to represent that you are taking the push. Now, let's talk about the 2023 draft class. We're talking about Deonte Banks in the 1st round, John Michael Schmitz in the 2nd round, Jalen Hyatt in the 3rd round, Eric Gray in the 4th round, Trey Hawkins on day 3, Jordan Riley on day 3, and Javarius Owens on day 3. Each of these players on this list have appeared in at least 20 games for the New York Giants outside of Javarius Owens, who is no longer on the New York Giants roster. Deonte Banks played just 11 snaps on Sunday, which is just 16% of the snaps on the day. He is in the doghouse with the coaching staff. I thought that Deonte Banks was going to be the starting cornerback 2 on this roster entering week 1 against the Commanders. That was not the case, but we are talking about a former 1st-round pick that, if you're looking at the last year and some change of data, is kind of looking like a 1st-round bust. Now, what I do think is a little bit unfair is that the way that Kayvon Thibodeau is being treated versus the way that Deonte Banks is being treated. Everybody is quick to label Kayvon Thibodeau a bust, and I do understand that he was a top 10 pick and Deonte Banks wasn't. But regardless of that, both of those players were 1st-round picks. And if you look back at last season, Deonte Banks was, people were being critical about his play, but not a lot of people were throwing that bust word around Deonte Banks. And if things continue to go the way that they went on Sunday, then Deonte Banks is absolutely going to be headed towards being a 1st-round bust. John Michael Schmitz, a 1st-team All-American in his final season at Minnesota. A lot of New York Giants fans wanted John Michael Schmitz in the 2nd round, and their wishes were granted by Joe Schoen. Now, for me, you're never going to see me leading up to the draft being super proactive about some of the upper echelon linemen, because offensive line is not a category that I'm a professional in. Maybe not even a professional in any other categories, but I'm best suited speaking about the quarterback position and the skill position. So I like to leave the offensive line stuff to guys like Bobby Skinner. And, just like Marcus Bowe was not on my radar leading up to the draft, neither was John Michael Schmitz. Now, this guy was drafted as a high 2nd-round pick, has not lived up to that, and has not been playing like a high 2nd-round pick. He's allowed 62 pressures in 28 games now as a New York Giant, and he allowed the most sacks of any center in the entire league last year with 6 sacks, and he allowed 5 sacks the year before. John Michael Schmitz lacks power, and he lacks speed with his feet, and he's absolutely looking like a complete bust right now. Jalen Hyatt had 19 targets in 2024, played 0 snaps on Sunday against the Washington Commanders. And in a game where Darius Slayton only had 1 target, it's a head-scratcher that Jalen Hyatt could not even find his way on the field. And he's been in the doghouse for the last year and a game. I'm not too sure why, but if you're going to have Darius Slayton out there running cardio, why not have Jalen Hyatt split the cardio duties so that when they're out there running these suicides, you have at least 2 players that are at full maximum capability. And if you turn on the all-22 tape for Darius Slayton, if you want to skip the whole process, you can check it out on the channel. I've compiled all of his routes. A lot of those routes, Darius Slayton looked like he was running those routes half-assed and looking a little bit tired. You look at Jordan Riley, non-factor. And then you look at the other guys, Eric Gray and Javarius Owens. All those guys are not even on the team yet. So this makes me put a little bit of focus on the other draft classes as well, in particular, the 2024 draft class that everybody was quick to label as a home run draft. Now, outside of Malik Neighbors, you got Tyler Nubin, Andrew Phillips, Theo Johnson, Tyrone Tracy, and Darius Muasau. I told people, temper the expectations of saying that Tyrone Tracy is a hit after a few good games. He finished the year last year with 7 straight games under 60 yards. So I do not look at Tyrone Tracy as a hit. Darius Muasau, absolutely not a hit. Theo Johnson is struggling and is not a hit. Andrew Phillips is one of the better players from the 2024 draft, along with Malik Neighbors, who is a bona fide superstar. Tyler Nubin, verdict is not out yet, but he has not had a good start to his career yet. A guy that is known to be a ball hawk in college, coming into the NFL, didn't have 1 PBU last year and didn't have 1 interception last year. Not a good look. He did lead all rookies in tackles, but in my opinion, getting a lot of tackles in the NFL is not something that you can hang your hat on. Tay Crowder had over 100 tackles as a New York Giant. He was never a really good linebacker. Now, this speaks volumes to the homegrown talent that the New York Giants do not have on the roster. And that is a massive, massive, massive problem. You know, one thing that you guys have heard me talk about a lot on this channel is the 2021 Los Angeles Rams, how it appeared that they went out there and paid for an extra trophy to add to that case over there in Los Angeles, right? When you looked at guys like Odell Beckham, Vaughn Miller, and some of the other players that they paid to bring in. But they were one of 6 teams in 2021 that 60% of their roster was homegrown. Let's take a look at the New York Giants roster here and talk about the players that are not homegrown. You can see them on the screen here. Those are of just the starters that are not homegrown players for the New York Giants, right? And those are also players that were drafted by Dave Gettleman. So when I'm talking homegrown, you could remove some of these players. You could remove 2 of these players, I believe it is, Andrew Thomas and Dexter Lawrence. I believe those are the only players from the Dave Gettleman regime that are still here on the team contributing as starters, right? Now, you're looking at, from all of the last couple of drafts from Joe Schoen, you're really looking at only a few contributors here. You're looking at Malik Neighbors. You're looking at Tyrone Tracy. You're looking at Wan'Dale Robinson, Andrew Phillips. Is Cordell Flott and Deontay Banks contributors? Sure, I'll put them on the list for the lack of names that we have as homegrown talent. Now, you have 6 players that were either free agent or come from Dave Gettleman on the offensive side of the ball. Russell Wilson, Darius Slayton, Andrew Thomas. It says John Bunyan Jr. in my notes. John Runyon Jr., Greg Van Roten, and Jermaine Illuminor. Then you got 7 players on the defensive side of the ball from Dexter Lawrence, Roy Robertson Harris, Raheem Nunez Roches, Brian Burns, Bobby Okereke, Javon Holland, and Paulson Adebo. And you got to add Abdul Carter to that list because Abdul Carter looks like he's going to be a piece of homegrown talent for Joe Schoen and Brian Daboll. Paulson Adebo also had a really quiet, solid game on Sunday. He shadowed Terry McLaurin on Sunday. And on 23 of the 29 routes he shadowed him on, McLaurin ended the day with 4 targets and 27 receiving yards in that game. So Paulson Adebo is absolutely a guy that is living up to the hype a bit here, right? But Javon Holland, still some question marks out there, right? But you got 7 defensive players. You got 6 offensive players. We're talking 59% of the New York Giants roster comes from free agency or comes from Dave Gettleman. This is making me really just revisit some of my stance on the last 2 drafts and the last 2 free agent periods from Joe Schoen. This is alarming, y'all. When you cannot draft good talent, develop good talent, get that good talent out there on the field, and more importantly, get results from that talent, New York, we have an absolute problem. And just seeing all these players on this screen here that are truly not homegrown talent is definitely an issue. And I think it's something that we got to keep our eyes on moving forward, I just feel that when you look at this statement here, this is absolute facts, man. And I think that they only have really this year to really iron out some of these deficiencies and try to get the homegrown talent to a higher percentage, maybe around that 60 mark, so that we can be knocking on the door of being a competitive team. Let me tap in with the chat here one time, and then we'll keep it pushing here. We do got a super chat from Pete Cho. Big shout out to Pete Cho, man, for the 1999 super chat. He said, I was just watching Giants Now video breaking down the defensive snaps, and 0, 5, 51, and 97 were all on the field for only 8 of the 65 snaps. Is Bowen for real? That's not maximizing our talent. Yeah, that's something we talked about on Monday on the Giant overreaction as well. And, we talked about the 8 out of 65 snaps. I understand it's the first game and you're trying to get Abdul Carter acclimated to the way that this defense moves and whatnot. But I do think that, being that these guys all play the same position, it goes to show you that the Giants have kind of overemphasized the edge rusher position, right? Abdul Carter, in my opinion, and we did a whole stream about this where we highlighted some tweets from Dilla and some of the opinions from Dilla as well, that it's tough to keep Abdul Carter on the field on the interior portion of the defensive line, playing that 3-tech defensive tackle. And in fact, we saw the Giants go out there on Sunday against the Commanders and really line up in what was a masked 4-3 type of defense, with Dexter Lawrence actually playing a little bit of 3-tech and being lined up over the guard and sometimes over the tackle. I don't agree with Shane Bowen's utilization of these players so far, right? Somebody suggested that now with the injury to Micah McFadden that maybe we try to get Abdul Carter a few more off-ball inside linebacker type of snaps, and I think that is a good idea. But when you have Kayvon Thibodeau and when you have Brian Burns playing the edge, it's really hard to get all these guys on the field at the same time, trying to get Burns, trying to get Abdul, trying to get Thibodeau, and trying to get Dexter Lawrence all on the field at the same time when you're looking at 3 edge rushers who possess a very similar archetype and a similar build. So I think that's going to be tough. I want to see that number get over 8 out of 65, obviously. And there were a couple of down and distance situations that were obvious passing downs where I thought that those were the type of, instances where you could get all 4 of those guys on the field at the same time. Definitely something we got to monitor going into next week. Big shout out to Pete Cho, man, for helping us raise the bar over here at Authentic in the Beard. All right, let's scroll back, see what the chat is talking about here, man. And, we'll try to get y'all up out of here a little bit early. Let's see. Okay, we'll start about here. Oh, I see a lot of y'all gave votes right here. We'll start with Kareem E. Shout out my dog Kareem E. He says he's taking the under. The only one that has done anything of note is Banks and has fallen off since Wink's departure. Yep, he's more of a man, a man coverage type of cornerback, and I think that's why he excelled in the Wink Martindale system. Solitary Camp said, preach, brother, preach. Salute to my dog. C-Rob said he's taking the under. They're all backups or bust. Failed draft. It really is a failed draft. Christopher Moody said, I wanted Tipman. I'm definitely not mad at that one bit. Bless Up KG said, I'm taking the under. He said, this comes from Bleach Report too. Shout out to Bless Up because he always, he was like, man, my foot is on Joe Shane's neck. And I was always trying to tell him, like, give him some time. Give him some time. Bless Up KG said, my foot is back on Shane's neck. This is a mess. If we don't turn this around by week 5 or 6, get a head start on the general manager market and boot his ass out of the damn door. Can't give no pushback there, KG. Stacy says, under all day. Joe's drafting skills are suspect. Absolutely. H-Town said JMS isn't big enough or strong enough for the position. Excuse me. That's very true. Deaton Shelton said teams were interested in Jalen Hyatt and he shut them down, yet he had 0 snaps on Sunday. I'm so confused. Me too, man. Lou Mateo said he's taking the push. Depends. Did Joe Shane use his people to draft or Dave Gettleman's people? There were no Dave Gettleman people by the time that Joe Shane got here in the draft. And we're talking 2023, Lou Mateo. You can't forget that in 2022, Joe Schoen, you could give him the excuse that his draft board might have been different coming over from Buffalo. But he had a whole draft in 2022 where he drafted Kayvon Thibodeau, Evan Neal, and a bunch of other bums that haven't worked out for the New York Giants. Wan'Dale Robinson, Micah McFadden. Let me see. What was my dog that was the linebacker that had a really great start to his career too? Darius. Damn, what was his name? I can't remember dude's name, but he ended up tearing his ACL and got released this past season. But yeah, this is the 2023 draft, so definitely not Dave Gettleman's people. Hyphen Wade said he's taking the under. I hate to see a Maryland kid look like this, especially in the media market of the world, but it's a lot of duds. A lot of guys no longer on the roster. Him and JMS keep this up. Bad class right there with you. And you know me, man. Maryland, born and raised, bro. Like, I love Maryland, and to see a guy that played for the Terps like that struggling is definitely not a good look. DeIlla said, I wouldn't knock Tibbs as much if he was actually productive against good competition. Yeah, I mean, he does shine against the more poor competition, but Kayvon Thibodeau's a pretty good player in my eyes, and I just think the treatment for Deonte Banks is a little bit more, they're coddling Deonte Banks a little bit more. I Am Jarrell said Banks, JMS, and Hyatt were definitely good picks at the time. That's why the draft is a crapshoot. Absolutely, man. That's a good point. Simeon Toko said under. The buck stop with the general manager. I don't give a damn who the scouts are. Shane doesn't know how to evaluate talent. Daniel Garcia said, when I think about it, those were still good value picks, though. It's true. He said at least the first 3 rounds. What's up with the coaching that they can't develop? That's true. That's true. Solitary Camp said, I'm pissed with the Banks pick. Nolan Smith was still available. Ooh, that hurts. Yeah, we traded up to get Deonte Banks, too. Zach G said he's taking the under. This is an understatement. Shane has been a disappointment since being here. Very true. Darian Beavers, not Darius. That's who it was. He said, what happened to Darian Beavers? That's the guy I was talking about. Tore the ACL, and I guess just never got right back to how he was. H-Town said home run drafts with inconsistent coaching equals a bust every time. Boss Les said definitely the taking the under right now. Sebastian says teams got tape on Tracy, and it's been mediocre for him since. Sabrina says she's taking the under. Big shout out to Sabrina for rocking out with us today. Welvin said he's taking the under. It's embarrassingly horrific. Facts, man. Hyphen Wade said he had his moments, but you're absolutely right. Love Tyrone, but he's got to pick it up. Jay Fred said, damn, Charlie Kirk just got shot at an event in Utah. Damn. I'm not familiar with Charlie Kirk. American political activist and author. He's only 31 years old, man. Prayers out to Charlie Kirk, man. That's tough, man. It's tough to hear. Pete Cho said, I think Newman did have 1 PBU against Mike Evans. It was like his only highlight. I know on the stats it said 0 when I looked at PFF. Could be different, though. Isaac Moore said, start the dart. Yep, you already know, fam. DeIlla said, I wanted Kincaid over Banks. Not that Kincaid has looked great, and he's had issues staying healthy. He's still young, though. That's true. Bless KG said Dex is homegrown. He is, but I was making a point about homegrown and also talent that came from Dave Gettleman. So keep that in mind. That's not a draft pick from Joe Schoen. Stacy says, I believe the KT pick was due to missing out on Parsons the year before. Go back to the 2022 draft and see who we missed on. A ton. The first round of the 2022 NFL draft had nothing but studs in it, and we just happened to get a couple of duds. It's kind of crazy. Deaton Shelton said that draft is just as bad as the Kadarius Toney draft. Facts. Dwayne Mason said Hyatt is best in the slot. That's what he did at Tennessee. Yup. That's where he's best, and the Giants haven't used him. It's very true, man. It's very true, bro. John said, how is Nacho still on the roster? Your guess is as good as mine. Call it a comeback 83 said he's taking the under. Some aren't here anymore. They aren't developing. We spent capital to move up the draft for a couple of these guys. I especially can't understand even why we've held on to Gray so long. I think Gray's gone. I only think they brought him back on the practice squad. All right, let's see what else we got. Isaac said trade everyone except Dex and Dart. Listen, I'm not trading Dart. I'm not trading Malik Neighbors. You could trade Dexter Lawrence. I wouldn't care. I ain't gonna lie. Isaac also said, I'm really tired of the incompetence. Yeah, it's been a problem, man. It's been a problem. Solitary Camp said, in what world do you pay Daniel Jones over Saquon Barkley, the number 1 ranked player? It sucks, man. People still think we made the right decision with Saquon Barkley. We ain't going to talk about it. We ain't going to talk about Daniel Jones or Saquon. Genesis X Bez says, I miss Jerry Reese as our general manager. He knew how to get players. He did. He knew how to get offensive talent, and sometimes he would overlook some of the trenches, which bothered me as well. But Jerry Reese has been better than the last 2 general managers that we've had. Yeah, Pete Cho said, move Abdul to inside linebacker and blitz him. I ain't mad at that either. What else we got? H-Town said the Packers found a way for Parsons, no escaping the fact that Carter is the same situation, just poor play calling and coaching. It really is. I don't know. I see Lamar Go G-Man said, let's be real. This does not. I'm trying to think what he mean right there. He said, this does not change till Mara. Okay, good. I'm glad you doubled down on this with some clarity here. Lamar Go G-Man said, this does not change till Mara fixes this broken franchise. This is the only thing Mara has to fix this mess. Yeah, and Mara might not be the guy. You know, we might just be stuck. Ben Harris said he's taking the under. I think we see Shane with a new coaching staff soon. I have seen general manager turn it around with a new coaching staff. That's a good point, too. Dwayne said Tibbs is solid. Christopher Moody said, I think Joe had some solid draft picks. We just don't have the coaching staff to develop these players. That's a good point, too, to kind of give him a little bit of an out there. I like that point. Ramdre81 said John Michael Smits gets bullied a lot. Can't believe we didn't bring in somebody to challenge him for the job during the spring and summer. Yeah, and this is the other thing. They felt comfortable enough to allow John Feliciano to walk in free agency, right? When he was a pretty solid foundation at the center position. And they just thrusted JMS out there with no backup option. It was poor decision-making on the Giants front office there. Ray W. said, all right, you can't come from one of the SEC pedigrees and play like this. I see something about no Mets, no Nets, no Jets, talking about Charlie Kirk. He got shot today. So, regardless of our opinions on him, prayers go out to him for a speedy recovery here. Let's see. I see some Charlie, whatever his name is, stuff in the chat. I'm going to avoid that stuff. H-Town said Tony, a.k.a. Joker, was the epitome of great, amazing talent down the drain, wanted to rap fame instead of taking his football career seriously. Scratching my head, it was sad to see. It was because, Kadarius Toney was definitely a talented kid, man. I mean, the way that he just went in and out of cuts, you look at the 180-yard performance against the Dallas Cowboys, which is still a single-game record for the New York Giants. Yeah, man, that kid was talented. Just couldn't get his head, screwed on correctly, which was tough. Ben Ayers said the Giants could have signed Keenan Allen for pennies. I don't know how well that would have worked here, but, I was watching the breakdown on Justin Herbert from the quarterback school, and, man, there was a post corner route from Keenan Allen in that game where Justin Herbert put a whole shot right on him on the sideline. He did have to get his toes down, and he just flat out dropped it. It just, just definitely rubbed me the wrong way. But Keenan Allen has shown that he's a capable wide receiver. He even did that with the Chicago Bears this past season. James Hollister said, Tucker Kraft, I wanted Josh Downs. Gray sucks. There was a lot of talent where Gray was. Yeah, man, there really was. Bless Up KG said, no Saquon talk here, man. Come on, I'm still hurting. I moved on. I did you a favor and I moved on. Shout out Jabari Brees. I haven't seen Jabari Brees in the building one time rocking out with us, man. Welcome to the fam, my dog. He said, here's my question. What happens if Dart goes out there and looks like Russell? Now we ruined him for a season that doesn't mean shit anyways. No, you didn't ruin him. Rookie quarterbacks tend to struggle. Eli Manning looked like shit his first season. He went 0-7. And then he went out there and he won 2 Super Bowls, 2 Super Bowl MVPs, and the rest is history. So you use that as the data that, trumps what you're saying here, Jabari. Like, doesn't mean you want to see your quarterback go out there and get those reps, those live reps, against the ones. It'll help him. Even if he struggles, it'll still help him in his development as a quarterback and hopefully turn him into a future franchise quarterback. So Eli Manning, as New York Giants fans, we have the perfect example of that, where we had Kurt Warner, who was playing well, not bad. And we pivoted to Eli Manning, who looked fucking terrible and didn't win a game. And then he came back after that and he didn't have a losing season in the next 3 years and we won a Super Bowl. So I think let me see. Yeah. Yeah, this is a correct statistic. You can look it up and try to fact check me here. So we had the losing season in Eli Manning's rookie year, but from 2005 all the way to 2012, the New York Giants never had a losing season. So you can't just look at the way somebody starts as the way that they're going to finish, and Eli Manning is the perfect example of that, Jabari. And shout out to Jabari for bringing his opinion to the table, man. Salute to him. First timer, I believe. Yep, and he did say first. Yep. Let me see. Brandon K said, has Shane Bowen said anything since game one? I ain't seeing it. They got to put him in front of the media. That's for sure. I am Jarrell says Marcus Bowe has experience at center. He might be better than JMS right now. That's true. Might want to experiment with that. That's true. That's definitely true. Let's see what else we got. Problem said, I don't know where I'm at with Daboll. I think he gets a bit overrated because of Josh Allen. I like him, but I don't know if he's the guy. That's kind of where I'm at with it, man. Dwayne Mason said Odell Beckham is still out there. Just saying. Can't hurt, right? I mean, you got Darius Slayton running cardio out there. Bo Collins came in for a snap. Jalen Hyatt is not contributing and not getting on the field. I'd absolutely bring in Odell Beckham Jr. right now. That's facts right there. He did give Diggs 189 with Mike Glennon playing fucking quarterback, man. might want to give Kadarius Toney a call. I know Giants fans would hate that shit. Hyphen Wade said, not for nothing, I think we also have to evaluate position coaches. I think we've kind of hammered it on the head for a while. A lot of these guys we let go in the past should still be on this staff. I don't know, man. I don't know. That's a tough one, man. You look at Bobby Johnson, and he's had success. It's a tough one. I can't give you pushback on it, Hyphen. You know, we got to exhaust every option and every resource we got. I am Jarrell said Peyton Manning was 3-13 and led the league in interceptions his rookie year. Give Dart a shot. This is a great point from I am Jarrell. I'll give you another one. Troy Aikman. I think Troy Aikman won one game his rookie year. And the Dallas Cowboys finished the year like 1-15. And Troy Aikman came and, listen, I know a lot of Giants fans, and I see this because of the rivalry. I even see Bad Dog talking about this a lot. Like Troy Aikman is one of the most overrated quarterbacks or something like that. That's bullshit. Look, my brother was a Dallas Cowboys fan coming up, and I'm 42 years old. I came up in the 80s. In the 90s, by the time we got to the early 90s before the injuries, Troy Aikman was viewed as the prototype for the quarterback position. He wasn't lighting up the statistics like a Patrick Mahomes or anything like that, but he knew how to win games. And Troy Aikman, man, when I think about leadership at the quarterback position, I don't even think about guys like Peyton Manning or Tom Brady or Patrick Mahomes. I literally think about Troy Aikman. The way that he galvanized that unit with Michael Irvin and Alvin Harper at the wide receiver positions and Emmitt Smith, Moose Johnston at the fullback position. I want to say it was Jay Novacek at the tight end position. He was the glue for that team, man. Like, Troy Aikman was a great leader, and he's another one that started off slow to, support some more of this point that I am Jarrell put up here about Peyton Manning. James said, we did Giants fans act like the tight end spot didn't need an upgrade. We probably have the weakest tight end room maybe after the Saints. Saints got a good tight end, though. I don't know. The Saints got a better starting tight end than us. I'm trying to think around the league, man. Like, yeah, we do have one of the poorer tight end rooms, that's for sure. Ain't no doubt about it. But in my eyes, you don't necessarily need like elite tight end play to excel in the league. I don't think that that's a thing. But as long as you got a guy that's serviceable there, you should be able to go out there and excel at that position for sure. Brownie said, if a quarterback crumbles because he faces a little bit of adversity, is that really the guy you want? I want my quarterback to overlook all the struggles and still remain confident. I think Dart brings you that edge. I damn near want to lead this up for the rest of the stream, bro. This is great right here from Brownie. Shout out to Brownie one time, man. That's fire right there. H-Town said, Odell will tear his ACL again on that terrible field at MetLife. I don't know. I can't speak about hypothetical situations definitively. I don't know. I saw Odell go out there with the Baltimore Ravens in 2023 and put up Darius Slayton-like numbers. If we can get that, go get that motherfucker. That's how I look at it, H-Town. Solitary Camp said, when was the last time we blew out a team? Colts game last year. It's an anomaly, but Colts game last year. Bookend Tackle said, Odell still probably a number 2 on our team. Yeah, Yeah, bro. Definitely. Bless Up KG said, for every Eli, there's a Derek Carr. And for every Derek Carr, there's an Eli. There's so many quarterbacks from day one that got thrown to the Wolves that are bona fide starters that some of them could be knocking on the door of Hall of Fame. It's just what it is. Joe Burrow comes to mind. Let's go around the league, right? Let's do a little exercise, right? Let's just go around the league. Think about quarterbacks that played in their first year, okay? I'm going to go through each division. We'll think about every quarterback here. And let's just see the success that they've had, just to do a little exercise before we get up out of here. All right, let's start with the AFC East. You got Josh Allen to start things, okay? Didn't start the first game, started the second half of the first game. We all know what Josh Allen is. He's probably going to be a guy that's going to get a gold jacket. The Jets in Justin Fields. He started his first year as well. I think it took about halfway through the season. He's had some success. Also has had some struggles, but he is still a starting quarterback in the NFL till this day. Just got paid $20 million from the New York Jets. The Patriots, Drake May. By week 7 last year, he was in the starting lineup. The Miami Dolphins, they drafted Tua, but they also brought in Ryan Fitzpatrick. Tua played in that first season sparingly. We'll leave him off the list. Chargers, they punctured Tyrod Taylor's lung, I want to say about week 3 or week 4, and Justin Herbert came in, and Justin Herbert now is, as far as the first 4 seasons of any quarterback in the history of the NFL, has had the best numbers of any quarterback in the NFL. So Justin Herbert is a guy that started year 1 and balled out. The Broncos, Bo Nix, we only got to go into that. He balled out. Raiders, Geno Smith represents what KG is talking about here, the Derek Carr situation. Struggled with the New York Jets. Couldn't get right at all. Broke his jaw. They sent him packing. He ended up going, I want to say, to the Chargers, the New York Giants, and maybe one more team before he ended up in Seattle. Got to Seattle, balled out. So he supports the narrative of Derek Carr, sit the quarterback, all of that good stuff, right? But they threw him out there to the Wolves, and maybe that helped him out in his development. Kansas City Chiefs, Patrick Mahomes sat the bench his first year. We know the history on that, balled out. Alex Smith was playing great football for a year before Patrick Mahomes came in. He only played 1 game, I want to say, in his rookie season, and came out the next year, balled out, had 50 touchdowns. Bengals, Joe Burrow. Steelers is Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers sat the bench in Green Bay behind Brett Favre, so that supports that narrative as well. Baltimore Ravens, Lamar Jackson started games in his rookie season. He's going to be one of the better quarterbacks the game has ever seen. Lamar Jackson might be the best pure talented quarterback we've ever seen in the history of the game. That's my opinion. Cleveland Browns, Joe Flacco. I'm trying to think who was in Baltimore before Joe Flacco. Did Joe Flacco do all that work as a rookie? Let me keep Joe Flacco on the side for a second. I think Joe Flacco came in as a rookie. I want to say he did, but we'll keep that to the side. Colts, Daniel Jones. We'll stay away from that topic. Jaguars, Trevor Lawrence, struggled the first year, got things together in the second year, got his team to the playoffs, got a playoff victory, has had his fair share of struggles. I think it's a little bit of, mixed bag of stuff from Trevor Lawrence, but he has had some success. C.J. Stroud, we know the deal with that. Tennessee Titans, Cam Ward right now looking pretty good. Let's go NFC. Jaden Daniels with the Commanders, first year starter. Eagles, Jalen Hurts didn't get a chance to start to the second year. That supports the Derek Carr narrative. Dak Prescott started as a rookie. We'll skip the New York Giants. 49ers, Brock Purdy. Started his second season because what went wrong with the rookie in Trey Lance, they actually had a backup plan. Brock Purdy has balled out ever since. The Cardinals with Kyler Murray, started as a rookie, has been an average starter. The Rams, I want to say Matthew Stafford when he was back in Detroit, started as a rookie. Seahawks, Sam Darnold, same story as Geno Smith. Green Bay Packers, Jordan Love, my doppelganger, sat the bench. Minnesota Vikings, J.J. McCarthy might have got thrown out there in his rookie season, blew out his knee, played his first game on Sunday night. Chicago Bears, Caleb Williams. Detroit Lions, Jared Goff, started as a rookie for the Los Angeles Rams. Buccaneers, Baker Mayfield, started as a rookie. I want to say they experimented with Tyrod Taylor for a couple of games, and then they went to Baker Mayfield. Panthers, Bryce Young, started from day one. Saints, Spencer Rattler's the starting quarterback now. Didn't start from day one. They had Derek Carr. He's getting his experience now. And the Falcons, Michael Penix Jr., started the last 3 games in his rookie season. So most teams are starting rookies, man. That's what it is. And there's going to be guys that fail, obviously, but I think that there are more guys, especially if we were looking at just first-round quarterbacks, figure out who the fuck you got under center. I think that's super important, KG, like to just figure out, is this guy a guy? Now, I want to look at Joe Flacco real quick and just make sure that he started as a rookie. And, yep, he started as a rookie. He had 2,900 yards, 14 touchdowns, 12 interceptions. So we're seeing the trend here, you guys. Like, start the quarterback. You know, I understand that certain circumstances do call for a quarterback to be developed and sitting on the bench. But at the end of the day, man, look, the NFL is moving towards figure out if you have the guy on the, under center on his rookie deal so that you can take advantage of it. Imagine if you have to go through Jaxson Dart's sophomore season to figure out that he is the guy, right? And then let's say that by the end of the season in 2026, you figure out he's the guy. Now you only got 2 years left on the rookie deal before you got to exercise the fifth-year option. I think it just makes sense. I'm not saying, go throw him out there right now up against the Dallas Cowboys, but the urgency is there. Give Russell Wilson the opportunity to go out there and show you that he can win some games on his own. And if he can, that will give you a little bit of a longer leash before we got to see Jaxson Dart. But at the end of the day, if Russell Wilson is out there shitting the bed, you got to move to Jaxson Dart earlier than later. I'm going to scroll down. Yep, I am Jarrell confirming the stuff with Joe Flacco. It's a fact. Let's see. Say Less NYC said Jaxson Dart is starting this year at some point. I think that's inevitable, right? Like, he's going to start this year. He's absolutely going to start. Ooh, somebody said Steve McNair. Ooh, let's go, Simeon. That's a good one right there, man. Rest in peace to Steve McNair. Baller right there. And, man, did you guys ever see the documentary on Steve McNair? I'm going to go back and rewatch that because they talked about how it was difficult for them to throw him out to the Wolves in that rookie season, man. And then all the transition from going from, what was it, like Houston to Tennessee or whatever it was. Like, man, and then they stuck with their guns, man. And a guy from a small school, Steve McNair, was a dog, man. He was a dog. Great one. That's why I love my chat. Y'all always dropping gems out there. Solitary Camp said, when was the last time Russ was good? 2020. 2020 might be the best Russell Wilson we've ever seen. He had 40 touchdowns that year, threw for over 4,000 yards. And that's where I'm hoping that we could get from him. But that's not what we got on Sunday. NYCEG said, yeah, that was a good documentary. Absolutely. I loved it, man. I loved it. Let me see. NFL Giants said, I sent a super chat, bro. Let's see what we got. Mm-hmm. Yes, he did. Shout out my dog, NFL Giants, in the building one time with the $10 super chat. He said, out of all things talked about, the one thing I've never heard a Giants fan content creator demand on their channel was a change from this color blue or new logo. I'm sick of it, bro. Not me, bro. The NY logo can go. The classic Giants italic logo, I love it. And we're big blue, man. We can't go away from the blue, bro. That's crazy. That's like telling the Washington Commanders to go away from the burgundy and gold. We cannot do that. We are big blue, man. We've been blue since the birth of the New York Giants. The logo, I think we can experiment with that a little bit if you want to. But in the past, when they've tried to experiment with the logo, I don't know if you know about the 2 years in the late 70s when the New York Giants went to the NY logo that they tried to kind of italicize it and it had it was like written in dual lines. Fans hated it. They hated it. And then they ended up in the 80s cooking up the Giants italic logo. I love that helmet, man. I got one sitting right over there signed by Lawrence Taylor. Shout out to my dog, Lucas, and I hope Lucas is doing well. Lucas, if you ever catch this on the replay, brother, I hope you're doing well. We ain't seeing you all season, bro. And, I know you across the pond and whatnot, but I hope you're doing well over there. But I like the Giants logo a lot, bro. I really do. And I'm a big fan of the legacy uniforms, even with the, the mismatched blues. I'm a big fan of that. It just speaks volumes to my childhood. And I know some of the younger Giants fans don't like that off blue, the darker blue to match with the royal blue. But I mean, dude, let me get this off. I mean, look at that legacy uniform, man. Look at that thing, man. That thing is beautiful, bro. Come on, dog. Come on. I don't know, bro. I want to go legacy full time, bro. But shout out to NFL Giants, man, for helping us raise the bar over here on Authentic in the Beard, man. I'm glad I saw the in the chat that you had the Charles Barkley, stupid as shit. Yeah, Charles Barkley said L super chat. I ain't never had somebody say that. I ain't never had somebody say that on this channel. Yo, that's pretty funny, fam. Bless Up said the classic Giants logo is flames. Yeah, I'm right there with y'all on that, man. Hyphen Wade said, I just want a new logo. The colors, I'd ride or die for those. I don't know, man. I don't know, man. I don't know about the new logo. Yo, hold on. Hold on one second here. Yeah, I got to do something here real quick. Hold on. All right, yo, y'all, give me 1 second. Hopefully my camera doesn't lose focus here, because I think we got to make a point here. Hold on. What are we doing, y'all? Nah, dog. We not doing that to the old school Giants logo, bro. I mean, come on, dog. This one from the 90s, too. Come on, dog. Come on, Giants NFL. We can't do that. We definitely can't do that. We got to represent for that 80s logo, man. Y'all know what it is. David Hernandez said, did anyone miss mentioning Cam Newton? He said some rookie records. Yeah, man. Cam Newton was a dog, man. I love Cam Newton's content, too, man. He's raising that bar, man. I love what he's doing over there on his channel. Charles Barkley said, bro, I like our logo. And he said, change the blue. It would, yeah. The two things together, change the logo and change the blue. I don't know if we can go that far. That's a little wild right there. But shout out to my dog, man. He helping us raise the bar one time. Brownie said all these changes made from or form classic logos to new school shit is ass. They all suck. Yeah, I'm not a fan of some of that new stuff. The 90s had it on lock, bro. Like, just the way they was trimming the jerseys, yo, like, look at that, man. And, like, I wish y'all could see this jersey in person. Like, the way that it's built, like, let me see if I could just get it a little bit closer. Hold up. Like, the way the stitching is done on these game-worn jerseys from back in the day, bro, like, it's just a different thing, man. It's just different, bro. It's just different. Like, they really took their time with the goods back in the day, man. Like, even the way you look at vintage, like, T-shirts, the way that they was built over this thin bullshit that we're getting, this microwave fashion, I can't stand it, y'all. Like, I don't know, maybe I'm just jaded by my era. You know, it kind of reminds me of, like, when I used to hear, like, you know, my OGs when I was a young kid, like, man, ain't nothing like that 70s soul music, right? I thought I was tripping, and now I'm turning into one of those people that's like, man, ain't nothing like that 90s hip-hop, bro. I don't know, man. It's just something about the old school threads, man, that's just fire for me. So I got to keep the blue. I got to keep the Giants logo, man, for real. Charles Barkley said Fanatics ruined the jersey game. They did, man. I thought Mitchell and Ness was doing a really good job. Reebok is probably the last name brand that, you know, really like did the jerseys justice for the NFL. And they're just cheaping out now trying to make more money. When you look at some of those limited jerseys that come out that have those stitched uniforms and whatnot, they're just built like shit, man. Like, I have an Eli Manning one from 2017 or something like that, 2016. It's like this weird fake cotton, fake polyester and all of that stuff. Yeah, it's definitely not the vibes for me. David Hernandez said, nah, man, you're spot on. 90s jerseys are fire. Yeah, I love... Dude, like, when you look at, like, the old Bucks creamsicle jerseys, or when you look at the old Seahawks jerseys, who else has some fire? Them old Buffalo Bills jerseys was fire back in the day, man. Yeah, I'm a fan of all that 90s stuff. Genesis X Bez said, I got one of those jerseys. My father got all of the classic jerseys. Yeah, man, my co-host, The Beard, is a vintage items collector. So he blesses me with, like, a lot of hats and a lot of stuff like that. And his good homie, Cernock, is the one that blessed me with a bunch of jerseys and whatnot, man, and just a bunch of throwback stuff, man. So I'm blessed to have, you know, a bunch of people sending me a bunch of dope stuff, man. Salute to them. Yeah, this might be, Blue Sky Watcher might be onto something right here. Uniform changes equal wins. I don't know. Deion Sanders, primetime, used to always say, man, look good, play good. I feel you, bro. I was definitely one of those ones out there when I played, like, trying to have a uniform looking right. You know, back in my day when I played in high school, like, the jerseys were cut, you know, where the arms were open arms, kind of like how Eli's jersey was. And I had gotten extremely lucky because the kid that wore my jersey before me, his mother had it, like, stitched up. So it was, like, real snug. And our backup quarterback, I can't remember dude's name. what was homie? I can't remember homie's name, but he was the backup quarterback to my cousin, who was the starting quarterback on varsity at the time. And when he saw my cousin get the jersey stitch, he wanted to get his stitch. So when I got the varsity, I wore number 4. And like the jersey was just like, it was so catered to me, bro. He was like a little 5'4" quarterback. And by the time I got to varsity, I was probably like 5'7". And it was just built right, man. It was just built awesome. Jay Fred said, I wore an old Mitchell & S. Taylor jersey on Sunday. Those are built great, man. I love those jerseys. Those are awesome, man. And y'all know we could talk about jerseys forever. Bless Up said, bring back the red alternates. I love those too. I think they got to pair them with a different pair of pants. Like, give me a pair of white pants. I didn't like the gray with the red. Give me a pair of white pants, or maybe go with red pants. Rock the blue helmet with that, the old school legacy helmet, man. I think we will be, it would just be an intimidating look. But y'all know we could do this forever. We could definitely talk about these jerseys for hours upon hours, and just all the looks of the New York Giants going through the eras and whatnot. There's some old stuff in the 70s that I like too. They had some white pants that had the red and blue stripe going down the side that I was a big fan of as well. Tons of uniform stuff that we could talk about, but we're not going to do that. We're going to absolutely keep this stream palatable for the people that are going to be checking it out, man. Big salute to all of y'all, man. I appreciate all y'all supporting this stream today, man. It was a fun one, too. A lot of data, a lot of good nuggets, a lot of good information and opinions from the chat, man. Salute to the fam out there, man. Y'all out here dropping big nuggets. I think this year is not like years from the past when, you know, within the New York Giants community, you had all these differences of opinions. You had people saying, nah, Daniel Jones deserves more weapons, more of a chance. And then you had the people saying Daniel Jones is garbage, he's trash. And there was this big split between the fan base. I think right now we are all unified as far as the fan base goes, and we all pretty much feel very similarly about the way that the New York Giants are putting a shitty product out there on the field, man. So it's good to be aligned. You know, I think that's very important. It's very good to be aligned as New York Giants fans. But again, man, y'all know I wouldn't prefer to be anywhere spending my Wednesday afternoon than talking some New York Giants football with you guys. This was an amazing stream. I had fun. I feel hyped about it. I feel better going into this game on Sunday versus the Dallas Cowboys. We are going to come back tomorrow and do the main preview show, which will have, you know, all the nuggets, all the roadmaps, all of that good stuff for you guys. And then, you know, we'll see how the beard is feeling about the NFC East and about how this matchup went against the Commanders on this past Sunday as well. So make sure y'all keep your eyes peeled for that stream. It'll probably be at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Me and the Beard have been experimenting and really liking that spot. It's a good spot. Seems to draw a lot more traction. But let's get some biceps in the chat before we get up out of here, man. And for those of y'all that make it this far on the replay, let me see the fist in the chat. We doing fist on the replay. We doing biceps live one time. Genesis Bez says, I missed a super chat. Let me make sure. I appreciate y'all reminding me on that, because I hate not getting to all the super chats by the time we end the stream. This is another one from the fam, NFL Giants in the building with the $5 super chat. He said, so you've never felt like maybe a change would make a difference? Give us a new feeling and vibe. I think this old school look is not it no more. Now, I will say this. They did change up the vibes here at the beginning of the season with the 100th anniversary uniforms, and we saw how that went. But, you know, I know that don't really necessarily speak to your point, because that is a part of the old school, right? Even though it felt new. I think it was just proof, though, that new uniforms don't really matter. You got to get some dogs out there. They got to go out there and play well, man. And I think the New York Giants just don't necessarily have that going for them within the fan base. But shout out NFL Giants, man. We appreciate you helping us raise that bar, man. And welcome to the family. I don't remember seeing this name in the building a lot, but we appreciate you coming up here, sharing your opinions with us, and you know, just supporting this channel. That definitely goes a long way, man. And it makes these streams, it makes it more easily for us to be able to upgrade what we do over here with these streams, man. But big shout out to everybody that rocked out with us from the top of the stream here. I see the biceps in the building, man. Salute to y'all. I see my dog, the Illa, in the building. I see I Am Jarrell. I see Lou Mateo. I see Simeon. I see Mo Wet in the building. I ain't had some Mo Wet in a long time. I see Dwayne in the building. NYCG John hyphen Wade is in the building. Y'all know what it is. Janiel, call it a comeback. Genesis, Erica's in the building. Big shout out my dog Erica in the building one time. Kareem Yee with the robot biceps. We got Stacy, Sabrina in the building. Salute to all of y'all, man. I appreciate y'all. Say Less in the building with the robot biceps as well. My dog, No Mets, No Nets, No Jets with the biceps and the thumbs up. Man, this really been a stream that I don't want to come to an end. I'm not even going to lie. I had a great time up here with y'all today, but y'all know what it is. We're going to be here. We're going to be active throughout the week. and active throughout the whole entire 2025 season. Again, don't forget to pull up tomorrow, 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We're going to be doing previews for all of the NFC East games featuring the Philadelphia Eagles, featuring the Washington Commanders taking on the Packers, and the New York Giants taking on those Dallas Cowboys. It's going to be a great time. Y'all know how we end every show, and I can't end this show without giving props to my dog, JNYG, in the building. Y'all know what it is. This is how we end every show over here on Authentic in the Beard, y'all. Keep raising that bar. Keep living those dreams, because the universe flows in Technicolor and surround sound. And a life without dreams is a life in black and white. Rest in peace to the podcast GOAT and New York legend. And if you don't know, you better ask somebody. Combat Jack. And that's a wrap, y'all. I'll catch y'all on the flip side. Y'all enjoy the rest of y'all Wednesday afternoon. I know I will. Be easy, y'all. Peace.